I love my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli, Ross Galloway here. Pal, how you doing?
What's going on, brother man? Thanks for unbanning me and letting me out of the Gene jail.
Yeah, you're off double secret suspension and you're back to it. And we're a little late today because my New York Mets, baby, on to the NLCS. Absolutely fantastic. Had to watch the end of the game. Put me a little behind in putting things together, but let's go Mets, baby. Fantastic series. Got some revenge on the Phillies. Absolutely loving it. Loving life right now.
Are they going all the way, Gene, or do you guys believe in jinxes?
Please stop doing that. I believe in every jinx you can think of. I believe in every sign you can think of. We got Grimace. We got the guy that dresses like a pimp. We got the parakeet. We got Seymour Butts. We got all the juju, all the mojo, and I know you're feeling it in your household right now as well.
Unbelievable. All right, nobody cares like a Bronx Tale. Go ask
Stop that.
Go ask Diaz if your father can't pay the rent.
Is Mickey Mantle going to pay your rent? Yes, I remember Bronx Tale as well, but this is a Queen's Tale, my friend. It's a whole lot different where we're all neurotic and we all go, let's go Mets. So, riding this high right now, I am absolutely loving that we're going right into the show here. I'm in a good mood. We're less than 30 away from the day, pal.
Yeah, I got to admit, I'm getting a little nervous, man. The polls are all heading in the right direction, but I am a little nervous.
Yeah, the polls are all over the place, though, don't you think? It's like every other day. It's like Harris +3 nationally, Trump +3 nationally the next day. You agree with me that national polls don't mean doo-doo right now, right?
Yeah, the national ones don't mean much, but if you look at the Real Clear Politics, the state-by-state map, he's inching closer. Now Michigan and Pennsylvania are on the average in his column over the last few weeks.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it to you. I'm in such a good mood. I'm going to let Ross Galloway run the show. Do you want to talk about this polling first, or do you want to talk about the interview over the weekend with CBS 60 Minutes?
Yeah, I mean, since we're on the polling, let's jump on that for a minute.
All right, cool deal. Let me make sure I got the right one here. Make the right banner. We're going to talk about polling right now. The internal polling from Kamala Harris apparently is sending off alarm bells in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I'm going to put up a show that was done recently. I don't know who the host is. I believe his last name is Halpern. He has Sean Spicer on the show as well, talking about the Kamala Harris internal polling that is signaling alarm bells from down ballot politicians in the states that she must win.
Harris a lot on this program for a couple reasons. Okay, we know what Trump is. We don't need to spend every episode talking about January 6th. We'll talk about it if people want to bring it up. What's happening now with Kamala Harris is this is an experiment. Can you win a short campaign with an untested candidate? And what I'm telling you is happening in private polling is she's got a problem now. Okay, it's not.
She's got a problem now, according to Mr. Halpern here, and he's going to be explaining it in a second. You just mentioned that you're seeing the same thing with Michigan and Pennsylvania polling, right, pal?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I know he's going to go into the internals in those states and those local campaigns, or in the Harris campaign themselves. But the public stuff is not looking good for her either. Trump, they always say, has a ceiling of 47, 48% nationwide, and in the swing states, it's about the same, to be honest. But she's inching downward. Every poll that's come out over the last couple of weeks, she's heading in the wrong direction, and Trump actually is ahead in a couple of these critical states.
Yeah, and let's talk for a moment about internal polling, though. Because I know we're talking about the polling that we're seeing publicly going on out there, and just, hey, Raptor, how you doing, pal? Glad to see you back here. Let's talk about internal polling and what that means. By the way, if you want to contribute, hit us up in the chat. The chat from my Twitter, if you're watching at G Baradelli, on the YouTubes and on the Rumbles, we'll get here in the studio and we'll be able to bring you into the conversation. But you're a veteran of many campaigns, locally, statewide. We've worked on some national stuff as well, peripherally. Internal polling. This is polling that is done, commissioned by the candidate, that is not done for public consumption, right? What is the use of an internal poll?
Yeah, well, a lot of these local candidates, and by local, I even mean like Senate seat races, they're looking at whether or not the top of the ticket is a drag on their own campaign. And the proof is in the pudding, right? Like, Harris has been to a couple of these swing states, and the people running for Senate don't show up to her events because they do not want to be tied to her, which is proof that their internal poll shows that the local candidates are outperforming her, and even though she's going to be on top of the ticket.
Well, in some cases, the top of the ticket is also dragging down the down ballot candidates that are trying to lift her up as well. When let's say a congressional candidate or a U.S. Senate candidate is seeing polling, their own numbers dropping, and they can't explain why, that usually means that there's a drag from the top of the ticket on them that is stopping people from going straight down the line. I seem to remember an assembly candidate in the People's Republic of New York telling voters to vote straight down the line for the Republican and conservative. That seems to be the issue with these internal polls, right? We're seeing candidates who are seeing their numbers drop, even though their support is just as intense as it was before they saw the drop.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the polls, like Real Clear has Republicans leaning towards 51 Senate seats come November 5th, right? And I hope that that's true. But it works both ways. The Republican Party has the same problem, right? Donald Trump is going to do very well in some of the states where the Senate candidates under him on the Republican side will not do as well. And it goes back to what I've been talking about. The Republican Party is effectively dead, right? There are people that the people in North Carolina that had their houses destroyed, if they want to vote for Trump, they're going to figure out a way to do it, in my view. But they're not going to come out for that gubernatorial candidate that's running as a Republican there, or other Senate races across the country. Carrie Lake in Arizona is a good example. I hope she wins. I think she's a great candidate. But she is trailing Trump drastically out in Arizona. Arizona's ahead in the state, and Carrie Lake's on the water by like 5 or 6 points.
And that's certainly a danger for any candidate. When you talk about ticket splitting, is basically what you're talking about, pal. Ticket splitting between candidates that you prefer on one side of the ballot, but you're voting for someone else on the other side of the ballot. And North Carolina, especially, that's a concern there because of the controversy there with the gubernatorial candidate. You mentioned Carrie Lake as well. It's a problem for candidates, but that's sort of the flip side of what we're seeing in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Let's let Mr. Halpern here explain what they're seeing in the Harris internal polling.
Cheering for Trump, it's not predicting Trump will win. She's got a problem. Please bring up the New York Times poll. So a new New York Times poll shows her up 3 nationally. We all know that 3 is like the bubble point, right? If she's up 3, she's got a chance to win the Electoral College, but they'd rather be at 4, and they don't want to be at 2. So 3 is right at the bubble. I'm not saying this Times poll is right. It's in line with other national polls. Now, bring up 102. Wall Street Journal has a story about Democrats really worried about the 3 Rust Belt states. We all know from our contacts in both campaigns that Pennsylvania is tough for her right now. And without Pennsylvania, there are paths, but there aren't many. There's no path without Wisconsin. So you see here, Tammy Baldwin's Senate campaign poll shows Harris down 3 in Wisconsin. We all said yesterday, Wisconsin and Michigan are looking worse for Harris than before.
Down 3 in internal polling done by Senator Tammy Baldwin. That's big.
Yeah, that's huge, because even the Real Clear average in Wisconsin has Harris, after averaging out like 10 polls, only up 0.5, a 0.5% against Trump, while Michigan and Pennsylvania already swung towards Trump in the average. So I believe this 3 points is real.
And what makes you believe that's real? Is that because you're seeing the trend being Trump's friend?
Well, I also believe that I'm not plugging Real Clear Politics, but what I like that they do is on the pages of all their polls, they'll show you exactly what the race looked like on this date in history, both in 2020 and 2016. And in both of those, Clinton was crushing Trump by like 5 or 6 points in these swing states, and Biden was crushing him by like 7 or 8 points in most of the swing states. Now, Trump is either beating Harris or down by 0.5%. That's huge. Trump historically outperforms the polls, right? Whether it's people don't want to admit they're voting for Trump, or Trump voters are just harder to get on the phone, or however these polling places are doing the polls. But he outperforms polls. So I believe this 3 points is real, and I just pray to God I'm right.
Well, and it's interesting you bring up the 2016 race, because that was the race where Democrats took Michigan and Wisconsin. The Clinton campaign took that for granted. They took it that they were actually going to win those states. They didn't even visit those states a lot in the last 30 days of the race. Here we are, same situation. Is Harris making the same mistake here? And is the party trying to prevent her from making the same mistake?
Well, I don't think Harris is making the mistake. I think that, very short, compressed campaign. Harris started off by not doing media and actually doing campaign events. That failed miserably. She's a horrible campaigner, right? They had to bus in people to get crowds and the whatever else. So then she transitioned to doing media, and that wound up being even worse. Now she's resorted to going on The View, Howard Stern, Stephen Colbert. Like, I think she's going to stand on a soapbox on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan after this. Like, there's really nowhere else for her to go. The more she gets out there, the worse she does.
If she does that, she might run into Trump at Madison Square Garden at the end of October, because he's going to be having a rally in MSG, pal, which I think is just, it's frivolity. It's straight up ego, but he's doing it. And it seems like Trump's strategy is maybe working in the sense that if he's making inroads in battleground states that Harris must have to win, and is then going to make her spend money in states that should be in her pocket, seems to me that means Harris will have less resources and time to go try to win battlegrounds that could ease her path to victory. Let's get back to the clip here and some of the analysis that went on with this show here.
Baldwin has her down 3, not Baldwin has Harris down 3. Why is the Baldwin campaign sharing its polling with the Wall Street Journal? Good question.
I think we know the answer to that, right, Ross? Why would a campaign share internal polling to the media?
Well, I think I've seen this clip, so it's interesting what their take was, to be honest. I think we should touch on it after.
Okay, so let's play the clip, and then you let me know when to stop, pal.
Sean, why would a campaign share their polling negative for their candidate? Because they want more visits? Is that the reason?
I mean, I think part of this is like a Hillary Clinton redux, which is that you want to make sure people understand what's going on. Plus, you're tied to it. Tammy Baldwin can't win if Kamala Harris loses.
She can. Yeah, she can. She can. I think.
Okay. Well,
in a close race, she can.
I love Sean. I love Sean's face there. Yeah, sure she can win.
Yeah.
No problem. I believe that. Sure.
Well, like you were saying, it could be a ticket split situation. She could win without Harris winning.
That would be interesting to see. By the way,
she's incumbent, right?
Power of incumbency. We're seeing 50 people across all platforms right now. We're glad you're all here. Wherever you are, like, share, give us a thumbs up wherever you are. Let us know you're here. Hit us up in the chat and let's talk a little bit as well. Back to the clip.
Okay, maybe it's not a 5,000 vote squeaker, but I think part of this is to make sure that they understand this. But I will say this. Off topic, Alyssa Slotkin said the same thing last week in Michigan. Like, this is
correct.
What we were talking about the other day. This is the
Correct.
They are sending.
I think that's the challenge for Democrats is the trend lines, right? I mean, if you just go back now for the last 3 to 4 weeks in Michigan and in Wisconsin, not that Harris was up, 7 and it went down to 4, down to 1. It's gone from 3 to 2 to 1 to tied. And at the same time, those Senate candidates, Casey, Slotkin, and Baldwin, are seeing the same
all much closer.
Right.
By the way,
so you do it to sound the alarm bell. You are sounding the alarm bell in the party.
Sounding the alarm bell in the party. So that's the reason for putting out the internal polls, pal?
Possibly, right? I just wanted to clean up some stuff we talked about a minute ago.
Sure.
Like the Wisconsin situation with Baldwin, it may not be a ticket splitting situation, right? Like I don't envision people voting for Trump and then voting for Baldwin. I envision, like I keep saying, there's a good, healthy, chunk of our quote unquote party that is going to go vote for Trump and leave the rest of the ballot blank, right? And that is why Trump is going to New York. Now, what I hope doesn't happen is that you mentioned Hillary Clinton ignoring Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in 2016. I don't think Trump is ignoring them because thankfully he has J.D. Vance making the rounds out there. And I think J.D. Vance is actually better to make the rounds than Trump himself in a lot of cases, right? Because Trump's not going to get any new voters. All he can do is stir up the base where J.D. has some crossover appeal. What Trump is doing in New York and places like that, he's even going to California, is the down ballot races. He's trying to ensure that the House of Representatives stays Republican because it looks like we're going to get the Senate and it looks like, we could potentially hold the House. And I don't think they're going to be stupid like they were the last time Trump won if we have both houses of Congress and the White House and not pass his agenda. And, they fell for the Russia bullshit the last time around and Trump didn't get shit passed in his first 2 years in office.
Right. So I see what you're saying. I think this is why they got J.D. Vance is for this Rust Belt swing state issue that they have in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania. He probably plays better in the Midwest because he's from Ohio. I am worried that Trump is going to places like New York and other places where he shouldn't because the race is going to be tight in the Sun Belt as well. Should he be going to Arizona? Should he be going to North Carolina? Should he be going to Georgia? What do you think about that?
The great thing about the great thing about Donald Trump is he's like, even though he's an older guy and he's not getting younger, he has limitless energy. It's not like he can only do an event a week. He'll go to New York, whatever day he's going, and the next day be in Georgia. Like he's fine with doing lots of events. I don't think it's a terrible idea what he's doing. If it pays off and he wins the White House and they hold Congress, the House of Representatives, with those seats in New York that we won the last cycle, then he'll be proved to be a genius. But if he loses the race by like a point in any of the states you mentioned, then he'll be looked at like a Hillary Clinton, foolish mistake.
Yeah, it can certainly come out that way. Both candidates are walking a tightrope, right? I think that Trump is in a better position. If the polling is any indication, then Trump is in a better position historically compared to 2016 and 2020. The question then becomes, will other things affect voter turnout? Like a storm in Florida, for instance, that takes out a lot of people, that goes up into North Carolina, where there's disaster in Asheville and places like that. That's when you start questioning strategies about, you now have a 30-day window to get your message out as much as possible. Yeah. Is it then wise to hit back to national TV and say, you know what, maybe a Fox News debate would be a good idea?
Well, I think Trump, once the dust settles in the next week or so, needs to go to North Carolina. It's going to look political no matter when you do this, but the RNC really needs to step up their game in North Carolina. Florida, and by the way, these storms are horrific, right? It sucks talking politics while there's active hurricanes going on and people lost everything.
Of course, yes.
Right? But the future of the country is at stake here, and this is a political podcast, so we're going to talk about politics, right? The RNC really needs to dig in North Carolina and figure out that they just loosened some of the rules in North Carolina to allow people to vote a little more flexible, right? So you got to be careful with cheating there, because that's what the Democrats do. But we have to track down our voters. Where are they? Did they flee to New Jersey, right? Where are they right now, and how are we going to get them to vote? Additionally, one more thing on this topic. I know our side is against early voting. I am against early voting. In a perfect world, we would get rid of it and go back to Election Day. However, these storms were a wake-up call. If you get the opportunity to vote early, go vote early, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen, right? North Carolina, the early voting wasn't in progress before the storm, but had it been, if this storm would have landed 2 weeks from now in another Republican stronghold or a swing state where we can't afford to lose any voters, and then their votes weren't cast, we'd be up Schitt's Creek, right? So Republicans, if you're listening and you get the chance to vote early, right? We got to change the laws to stop this in the future, but this is the way it is right now. Take advantage of it. Last thing on this, Gene.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Romney McDaniel, former RNC chair, right? Mm-hmm. I was no big fan. However, she used to say something that made a lot of sense, and I even heard Lara Trump say it a few times. She's the co-chair of the RNC now. Vote early. Another reason why is the RNC and campaigns have very finite resources, right? As we get closer to Election Day, they have to get out the vote. So they have to determine who did not vote yet and then harass those people through phone banking and door knocking to go out and vote. If you vote early, that population shrinks and the money they have can be used to actually go and get out the voters who haven't voted. If so many Republicans wait until Election Day, we have to waste a ton of money tracking you all down, right? Ronald McDaniel used to say that, she was right, but she couldn't influence them. Yeah, we have to vote early.
Well, the good news is the states that have started early voting have seen a significant increase in Republicans turning out for early voting. So hopefully that trend continues across the country. But we want to know what everybody else thinks. So if you're out there, you want to chat to us, you want to leave us a comment, you want to like, you want to share the show with your friends, all the stuff to help grow the show, I'd really appreciate all of that. We're going to move on now, pal, to another topic. You mentioned earlier how the Harris campaign has pivoted to doing more national interviews. Well, it seems like, oh, no, we're not doing that one again. Got to find the right banner. It seems like what's happening is these outlets are showing themselves for being what they are. They're in the bag for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris went on 60 Minutes over the weekend, I think it was, or last week, late last week. And she did an interview with CBS for 60 Minutes, like I said. And it turns out that CBS released 2 different versions of a clip concerning Kamala Harris and Israel. But by the way, just want to before we get to that, there's a comment in the chat with Russ here. They agree with you, pal. Jeff agrees with you about early voting. He hates it, but he's going to do it just in case. That's the attitude we want, right?
You have to do it. It sucks. I don't want to do it. I want to know the results on election night, not 10 days later or 20 days later, whatever it was back in 2020, right? But we have to fight under the rules that exist today. You go to war with the army you have, not the army you wish you had.
Exactly right. So back to the story we were talking about. So here's a clip from 60 Minutes. I call this version 1. This seems to be the unedited version of Kamala Harris's answer to a question concerning Israel and Bibi Netanyahu, its prime minister. Here we go.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
So that's the first clip. We got the word salad that we normally give from Kamala Harris when she doesn't know what to say in response to that first question. Now take a look at what CBS also put up on the interwebs.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
So the back end is the same. The front end, not so much, pal.
I don't know if you have the clip, Gene, but part of this interview, when she was rambling on doing a word salad, they just did a voiceover where Bill Whitaker gave the answer. It was like this was a painful interview to watch. And by the way,
it's absolutely ridiculous is what it is, pal. How can a news network do this? This feels to me like a breach of, if there is such a thing, journalistic ethics.
Well, or misinformation, if you will, right? Misinformation, disinformation, cheap fakes.
Propaganda.
I will give Bill Whitaker credit, right? The guy did a good interview, right? The best you can expect from CBS. I can't help it if the editor's room sliced and diced this thing and edited it out to make her look better. I can't take anything away from the interviewer himself. He did a good job. He followed up when she gave the non-answers. She continued to give non-answers and word salads. Yeah, whoever doesn't know what a word salad is, go and watch the original, if it still exists out there, of this 60 Minutes interview. It's just painful to watch. She says nothing, uses lots of words, big words, SAT words.
Absolutely. She uses a lot of words. She has circular arguments, if you even want to call them arguments, just circular reasoning and circular thinking, and she ends up back to where she was. And maybe she'll throw in her story about her being raised and born a middle-class child.
And working at McDonald's, supposedly.
It's nuts, though. But, okay, so we know that there is such a thing as left-wing media bias. We've seen it. We've all experienced it for years. If you were the news director at CBS, how do you justify the difference in these two clips?
Can you? I mean, at this point,
how can you? I'm trying to ask. Yeah, how can you?
It's just naked at this point. There is no hiding it, right? The left truly depends on their own voter base being a bunch of dummies. That's the only explanation, right? They won't scratch beyond the surface. They'll do what they're told. They'll only believe the official government line on something, and whatever the press says must be true. Like, that's what they have to depend on. Because anyone else who will just look one layer deeper will know that this is BS, right? And they don't. It's the scary part is that the media does not care. CBS doesn't care that you caught them editing the video, right? Have they come out and apologized? Trump's calling for the full transcript to be released.
I was just about to say that. The Trump campaign is demanding the unedited transcript of Kamala Harris's 60-minute interview after her Israel word salad. So do you think we're ever going to see that, or do you think that this is obviously
Congress
Trump is pouncing?
Congress demanded the full unedited transcript of Joe Biden's interview with the special counsel, right? We never got that either. We got what they wanted us to see. And for the left, that's always good enough, unless it's Trump, right? When Trump made that phone call with Ukraine, they wanted the full transcript. They got the full transcript. They impeached him anyway, right? It just doesn't matter.
By the way,
the truth doesn't matter for them.
It doesn't matter to Democrats, that's for sure. Here's the statement from Caroline Leavitt. On Sunday, 60 Minutes teased Kamala's highly anticipated sit-down interview with this epic word salad that received significant criticism on social media. During the full interview on Monday evening, the word salad was deceptively edited to lessen Kamala's idiotic response. And then, of course, they end up saying that the American people deserve the full, unedited transcript from Kamala's sit-down interview. We call upon 60 Minutes and CBS to release it. What do they and Kamala have to hide?
You mentioned.
Do you remember about? It just occurred to me. Do you remember when Trump went on to 60 Minutes and he had a whole interview and they were talking? He brought up the Hunter Biden laptop and all that, and how the reporter there, I forget what her name was fact checking him, trying to fact check him in real time.
Leslie
It turned out
Stahl.
that he was right. Leslie Stahl. Thank you very much. That's why I keep you around, because you are just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to politics. But yeah, Leslie Stahl was fact-checking him during the interview, and they tried to make him look stupid. And it turned out that, once again, he was right about that. So is 60 Minutes just in the bag for Democrats?
And 60 Minutes doubled down on that last week and still said that Trump was, because they tried to couch this as an interview with Kamala and it was going to be an interview with Donald Trump. But Donald Trump turned it down. And they were saying he was just being a baby because of the last time he was on there. No, he was right the last time he was on there. And you guys never apologized, never issued a retraction, right? Let me run back to something you said earlier, Gene, about will we see another debate? The offer is, I don't think Trump should debate, right? But the offer is on the table from Fox News again. They offered a last-minute debate on October 24th or October 27th, whichever one the candidates will agree to. Will Harris agree to that? I think Trump's going to keep his powder dry and wait to see what she says. If she agrees to it, I think he'll do it.
Well, yeah, and I think if she agrees to it, it means that she knows, it'll confirm our previous segment that the internal polling is bad for her and she needs to do something to turn it around, even if it means going on to Fox News to deal with that.
But do you think she will do that? I don't care how bad it is. I don't think she'll do it.
I'm not so sure. I think that if the numbers tell her to do it, she'll do it. That's honestly my thought on that. I think that if the numbers tell her to do it, she will definitely do it. What do you think? Do you think I think that Trump is, I think your strategy is right, but do you think that Trump will basically keep his powder dry, or do you think he'll just say I'll do it and then pressure her to do it?
I think this time he's going to wait. I don't know. I could be wrong. Raptor's in the chat right now. He said no to another debate. With Trump, that don't mean anything, right? He just says things sometimes to set traps or whatever. I'm not saying another debate's off the table. I think Trump's ego usually gets the best of him. If she agrees to a debate on Fox News and the moderators are actually like normal-ish type people, like a Brett Baer and a Martha McCollum, I think Trump will do it if she agrees.
It could happen. I'm not going to rule it out. That's for sure. So listen, anybody else in the chat want to say anything about this? Let us know what you're saying. Leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. Like and share the video with your friends. All that really, really good stuff. Because, ladies and gentlemen, right now, we're here at halftime on the show, such as we are after an amazing Mets victory that delayed the show. So I want to remind everybody and just say thank you for watching Behind Enemy Lines. I'm Gene, he's Ross. And while we got you listening, whether you're on the YouTubes, whether you're on X, whether you're on Rumble, wherever you are right now watching, thank you so much for being with us. And if you like what you see in here, be sure to subscribe to the channel wherever we are and check out the merch at shop.buffoonoftheweek.com. We added a whole bunch of Behind Enemy Lines merch. And pal, have you checked out the store and seen all the goodies that we have? Because if not, I'm about to share it with you right now.
I looked and you told me you were going to start hawking commemorative gold coins. I'm still waiting to see those.
Oh, I wish. You realize how much money the show would have if I had access to gold coins? Are you kidding me right now? It would be great. When my internet's moving a little slow for some reason, so we're maybe not going to be able to pull up the store tab. But what I will do is pull up the merch that we have that we can show everyone. Check out all this stuff here, guys. As soon as I pull it up, who knows? The whole show is falling apart. I don't even care right now. We're having a good time. And that's what matters. Get your shit together, man.
Pay your
Find
fucking
the
bill.
stuff already here. My God. But listen, shop.buffoonoftheweek.com. I'm trying to get to it right now. I'm trying to pull to it. Unfortunately, it's a little harder when you don't have things prepared right before the show starts. And hey, live shows, what are you going to do? You know what? We'll pull to it another time. Let's keep the momentum going because we got a lot of other things to talk about here. I want to talk about this story that broke today about these threats made in a classroom in Kansas. I saw this first on Libs of TikTok. This has to do what we were talking about with the Kamala Harris campaign as well, and how it seems like people are starting to get desperate. It seems like Kamala Harris may be getting desperate based on her internal polling. The media might be getting desperate because of the deceptively edits that we're seeing on CBS. And now listen to this from a professor in a classroom. This is being recorded in a classroom. Check this out.
Some serious problems. That's what frustrates me. There are going to be some males in our society that will refuse to vote for a potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president. We could line all those guys up and shoot them. They clearly don't understand the way the world works. Did I say?
Line them up and shoot them, pal. He wants to unalive men because of an election.
Gene, let me ask you a question.
Shoot.
As much as
Wait,
you
wrong
hated,
term. I shouldn't have said shoot. Go ahead.
As much as you hated Hillary Clinton, did you think she was dumb?
No, I thought she was devious.
No. Yeah. Kamala Harris, we don't think she's dumb because she's a woman. She is just, in fact, dumb. Okay? It has nothing to do with her being a woman. The left is violent. We talked about this a few times already. They try to paint the right as this violent, extremist, nationalist movement that January 6th, they tried to overthrow the government with a bunch of unarmed old white ladies waving flags in the Capitol, right?
Yes,
but what
Granny.
they leave out was 2020 was a year-long, definitely in the summertime, of riots by violent leftists.
Summer of love, baby.
The leader of our cult, our dear supreme leader, Donald Trump, was nearly assassinated twice. He was actually shot in the head. And we did not riot. We did not retaliate, right? It's the left that is violent. This is a college professor. Now, whether or not he means what he says is irrelevant to me. They're the ones who preach that we preach this type of violent rhetoric, right? But it is them.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this shit.
I'm tired of it too, but here's what gets me the most about this clip. Watch this.
The way the world works. Did I say that? Scratch that from the recording. I don't want the deans hearing that I said that. Guys are.
I don't want the deans hearing that I said that. I mean, come on. That's the money shot right there. It may be a joke. It may be, him kidding around with his class. Oh, I don't want the deans to see I said that. Because maybe the dean thinks the same thing for all we know. But it's the balls on these people. And we pay money for kids to go to these schools. Yeah. Whether it's tuition or if it's a state-run school through our taxes, we pay for the pleasure of buffoons like this asshole telling people that if you're a man and you're not voting for Harris, you deserve to be unalived by Pew Pew.
And Gene, I've said this a million times. Like, I don't think what he said would actually lead to violence, right? I just don't believe it. But to me, it's not even the problem with what he said specifically. It is the fact that the bias of that professor, right? He said that many men very generalized statement there, will not vote for a female because they don't think that they're smart enough, right? Whether or not he said they deserve to be shot, you could even strike that from the record. But that is what is being taught in college classrooms throughout our country. That is being taught in high school and junior high school classes throughout our country, right? Just a very biased figure of authority in front of impressionable youth saying things matter-of-factly that are just not true. And these people get brainwashed for their formative years. And then is there any wonder why people in their 20s typically vote Democrat? They typically identify as socialists or even communists in this country, right? Is there any wonder why?
No, there's no wonder why. But ultimately, those kids also do grow up and hopefully become functioning members of societies once they pay their first taxes. Then they start thinking, maybe this whole socialism thing went wrong. Maybe my professors led me astray.
Yeah.
So,
and do you think, Gene, that your tax dollars should go to repay the loan of an idiot drone sitting in that classroom listening to this guy? Right? Like, I don't. You want to hear that crap? You pay for it.
I absolutely agree. I completely 100% agree, pal. So, want to move on to another topic. I didn't get a chance to put this one up yet, but you've been following what's been going on in the People's Republic of New York City, right? With all of the arrests and indictments and resignations and all that, right?
Oh, and it got worse the other day.
Oh, it certainly got worse, but let me see if I can pull up this image here. I want to see if I can. Did you see the cover of a New York magazine?
No.
With all the figures who have been indicted and resigned, and I gotta pull this up right now. It is too good to see. While I'm pulling this up, folks, get into the chat. Let's talk a little bit. Let's get some chattiness going on in here. Let's talk about all the topics we talked about, whether it's the Harris internal polling or whether it's what we saw in the media recently. Let's get into those comments together here. Hang on. I'm going to pull this up. Okay, I think that's good enough to look at right now. Let's share the screen, Baradelli, so we know what we're doing here.
You're not allowed to watch Mets games anymore.
I certainly am. How dare you? So pull that up as much as I can here. Look at this motley crew. Everyone here is either resigned, been raided by the authorities, been indicted, been arrested. This is the government of the People's Republic of New York City, pal. When you see this, I know for me, it harkens me back to the time when we used to do the show before the time before times, and we would have a whole part of our website to reset the clock for every time that there was an arrested, indicted, or convicted politician or appointee or whatever in New York State government. This is the Adams administration, my friend.
Yeah, it's the most chocolate administration in the history of New York City. Those are Adams' words, not mine. Just quoting him. The most chocolate administration. That New York City brand that he was touting over the last few years, right? I thought you were going with the other madness that happened, Gene, the other day. That former Governor Patterson and his stepson got jumped and beaten on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. What kind of madness is that?
Yeah, well, that turned out to be some kids that got into a fight with his stepson, who I believe is somehow related to Curtis Lewa from the Guardian Angels as well, just to show you how incestuous New York politics is.
Yeah, but they arrested 2 adults today that work for the New York City Housing Authority that were involved in this too. It wound up being gang-related. There were 2 adults, a few children involved, but the former governor of the state of New York got jumped on the streets of Manhattan. Mayor Adams, your city is out of control, dude.
Yeah, it's absolutely out of control. And what we're seeing is, and you know what? I got one better for you, pal. I got one that's even better. I'm going to see if I can pull this up now. Let me see if I can get this set up the right way. This is from a recent gathering in the People's Republic of New York City. See if I can get this up on the screen.
This is the Deputy Commissioner of Corrections.
Mm-hmm. You know it, man. You know it. Let me see if I can expand this video up here. No, we want it fully expanded. What? Twitter.
People from New York City, this is your acting Deputy Commissioner of the New York City Department of Corrections. Watch this animal.
Yeah, you can see it okay on the screen. 'Cause I'm not looking right now. We're all good.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, let's show this. Real Housewives of New York City government right there. Just lowering the music because it's ratchet. Oh. Someone get this on Bravo. Someone show this on Bravo TV. Where's Andy Cohen? And then you see corrections officers trying to push back the woman there. It's chaos right now in New York City, bro.
So that lady right
Whoa!
there, the chocolate lady, she is the deputy commissioner of the Department of Corrections. Why is Rikers Island out of control, you ask? I don't know.
When people like this are running it, kind of gives you an indication, right?
And that altercation didn't take place at like a house party somewhere. That was at Gracie Mansion.
It was at Gracie
Mansion.
Mansion. Just keep that going for a second here. And you see, there are corrections officers around right now. It's not like this is happening on the street with nobody looking. Oh, wait, Ingrid's pointing in faces? Oh, to be a fly on the wall on this party, huh? This is nuts. I think everybody gets the point of it, but...
And what will happen to her, Gene?
Absolutely nothing. Maybe a strong talking to.
Maybe. I don't even know if she'll pick up the phone if Adams calls.
It's the city's doomed, man. New York City is doomed. It pains me to say it, as we have over 70 viewers right now across platforms. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you all hanging out. Tell a friend. We're here every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time on X, on Facebook, on Rumble, Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble. You're right. Maybe I shouldn't watch Met games before we go on air. Maybe. I don't know. They get me a little wild up.
Gene, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. So Trump is doing that event at MSG in New York City, Madison Square Garden, right?
Right.
What's the over under on Adams being there and endorsing Donald Trump?
If Trump made an overture and said, I feel your pain and you're innocent until proven guilty from this latest federal indictment, and I see that.
He also will have pardon power. It's a federal prosecution / persecution against Adams.
Hey, Raptor, I missed this chat comment. Tell me what picture you mean, and I'll make sure that I post it. And I want to thank as well, Raptor is pimping us out there and sharing it out, just like everybody else should be doing. You're the man. Get in contact with me on X afterwards. I want to I appreciate what you're doing.
Speaking of getting pimped out, so the reason why I brought that up was stranger things have happened, right? Rod Blagojevich, former governor of Illinois, who got locked up after the federal government accused him of trying to sell Barack Obama's vacated Senate seat when he won the presidency, who did time in a federal jail, was pardoned by none other than Donald Trump. And Rod Blagojevich now is one of Donald Trump's biggest cheerleaders. He goes on TV all the time talking about what a great man Donald Trump is, right? Because he feels his pain, how the feds sometimes overstep their bounds and prosecute their political enemies, right? So Adams endorsing Trump, stranger things have already happened. There's a chance, I think, that this can happen.
There may be some discussions there. And listen, Adams is innocent until proven guilty, just like Donald Trump is, just like anyone accused of any crime in this nation is. And clearly, he's taken the initial heat from that indictment and from the pimp walk, the perp walk. Wow. Hello, Gene. The perp walk that he had to do a couple of weeks ago. And it seems like he's weathering the storm. There's not as many people calling for his resignation as there were initially.
I don't know, Gene. You just put up the New Yorker magazine with all those resignations and terminations, and the former governor just got jumped on the Upper East Side. For those of you listening, the Upper East Side is like one of the most expensive areas on the planet to live. It's not like, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn back in the day. This is like a really nice area. For a gang fight to erupt and the former governor to get stomped out, that's a big fucking deal, right? So I don't know if Adams is weathering the storm or if he's going to survive this. It seems like the city has been out of control under his watch and is spiraling further out of control, if you can believe that.
Absolutely. As we go through some of these names here, we see Eric Adams, of course. We see, I think it's that Brian Cadasco, the fire prevention chief, Anthony Saccavino, Italians not having a good time in the People's Republic of New York State. Then we also see Eric Ulrich, Mr. Galloway. We know that name. We
What
had
a
some
big
dealings
letdown.
with this man.
Yeah, Curtis Lee has done an excellent job chronicling Mr. Ulrich's ties to the mafia and organized crime.
Yeah, then there's also James Caban and his brother, I believe, was the former police commissioner. Thomas Donlan, the interim police commissioner, was raided. The mayor's chief advisor, Ingrid Lewis Martin. The names are just up here. Julie Zornberg. Julie Zornberg was a federal prosecutor in the DOJ. She was a federal attorney. And she ended up having to resign because I believe that she was raided as well. Other NYPD officials, other senior advisors, we mentioned Edward Caban, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, got raided by the feds.
The only person that can save the city, Gene, is Andrew Cuomo.
No, absolutely not. We are not going to let that happen. Anyone but Cuomo out there.
He looks clean compared to these guys.
Oh my goodness. The only person that can save the city is the janitor. DCAS people need to save the city right now. Oh, we're getting some more comments in here. I like that. All right, Valiant Thor, welcome to the show. We really appreciate you dropping a comment. America is tired of 99% of the media protecting one political party and pray it shows in November. From your lips to God's ears, my friend, that is a great comment. He or she, I guess, follows up with, voting for Kamala Harris is like taking a massive dump in your pants, then slipping on a fresh pair of sunglasses and confidently claiming everything's under control. That sounds a little familiar, possibly like a certain incumbent that sits in the White House, Mr. Galloway.
Look, I get his point, but with some of the media outlets that Kamala has been going to lately, it got me thinking, like, who watches The View? Like, is there any undecided voter really watching The View? Like, I don't know if the American people are necessarily fed up with the media, quote unquote, protecting one party, because most regular Americans don't watch the quote unquote media, right? They'll either get their news from X or Newsmax or OAN or a podcast
or YouTube or Rumble. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I get it, because like we're all fed up with the media being so one-sided, but I don't know if it's going to reflect in the election. I think there's other reasons for them. Like, I don't know. I think that Joe Biden pretending to have a press conference today with some cabinet officials and Kamala Harris over the hurricane, like that should piss off enough people in the swing states that were affected by these storms to come out and vote against him, right? He didn't do it for Hurricane Aileen. He did it for Hurricane Milton because they got beat up over these last few weeks, right, for the disaster of a response.
Right, absolutely. And you know what? Since you're talking about relief and money for responses and things like that, we did a video yesterday for This Week in Dumbmocracy, where Fox News' Peter Doocy questioned White House spokesperson and now senior advisor, got a promotion, Karine Jean-Pierre, concerning the lack of funds available from SBA and for FEMA, but yet there's earmarked funds all ready to go to Lebanon for relief efforts there. Let's take a look at, let's get this clip out there.
Issue of funding. The administration has money to send to Lebanon without Congress coming back. But Congress does have to come back to approve money to send to people in North Carolina. Do I have that right?
Here's what I'm going to be very clear about. The president and the vice president has...
First of all, why is she wearing her dad's suit?
I was going to say, Gene, she looks like she's wearing one of your sports coats. What's going on here?
Whoa, okay. Yes, I'm a bigger guy, but my God, I mean, are you saying that because I'm a bigger guy or because it's a pinstripe suit and I'm Italian? Is that what you're saying?
A little of both.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. All right, well, let's let her righteous indignation flow, shall we?
Had a robust whole of government response to this. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I said it at the top, more than $200 million that we have directly put towards survivors here for disaster help. And that's because of this president's commitment to make sure that we are there for communities that are impacted. We take this very seriously again. We take this very seriously. And before the hurricane hit, we pre-positioned more than 1,500 federal folks on the ground to help.
Federal folks. Which part of the government employs the folks, Galloway? Who are the folks?
Yeah, and what they positioned them on the ground to help. So why did it take like 8 or 9 days for them to help during Aileen, right? Like, so I don't get it. Right? The people on the ground are saying they haven't seen anyone, including their own state's National Guard, right? The Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty, its new name, I think Donald Trump's going to change it back to Fort Bragg, in North Carolina, didn't dispatch any soldiers, any active duty soldiers, within a couple of hours of where the storm hit is where their base is. They didn't dispatch anyone for over a week. Why did the president sit on that? George Bush got destroyed for Hurricane Katrina's response. And in some ways, rightfully so, right? Joe Biden took a lump. Kamala Harris claims that DeSantis didn't pick up her phone calls, even though she's never called him in the last 4 years. And all of a sudden, he needs to talk to the vice president who has absolutely no power, right? That doesn't make any sense either, right? So this lady's full of crap, right? She's on video talking about money that was diverted from FEMA to go to illegal immigrants over the last few years. And then Mayorkas is on video very recently saying FEMA's almost out of money unless Congress does something. And yet there's money to be sent overseas still. There's tweets from Secretary Blinken talking about we're sending money to Lebanon because there are people that are homeless there from the war. Like, dude, take care of America first, no matter which state they're in.
Not for nothing. Read the fucking room. Read the room. We got Americans that are going to be suffering here. You got to watch the whole clip, though, pal, because this is crazy. Again, this is from yesterday's This Week in Democracy.
And so we have made sure that every state has gotten their storm requested emergency declaration. They requested it, and we made sure they received it. We've taken this very seriously. More than $200 million that we have provided to the impacted areas.
$200 million. How much have we sent to Ukraine?
Hundreds of billions with a B.
How much have we sent to Israel?
Billions. Tens of billions.
So we're bragging about $200 million in a federal budget. That's a drop in the bucket here.
For Americans that lost everything.
Let's keep rolling.
But instead, people want to do disinformation, misinformation, which is dangerous. Because then when folks on the ground hear that, they may not want to ask for the help that they need. That is there for them. That's our focus here.
But President Biden is fond of saying, show me your budget and I will tell you what you value. If he's got money for people in Lebanon right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for people in North Carolina who need it.
Yeah, you got money for fake mustaches, but where's my money? It's Peter Ducey's right on point here. And as we go forward with this clip, because I know we're running out of time quickly here, as we go forward in this clip, Karine Jean-Pierre accused him of misinformation, but he brings to light that this is directly from a letter that came from the White House directed to Congress, asking them to come back into session because there are shortfalls in the SBA disaster loan program and in FEMA for long-term recovery funds.
That's not misinformation.
Wait, no, that is your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir. What you do? Yes, it's misinformation.
Is there money to send to Lebanon right now?
I just mentioned to you that we provided more than $200 million to folks who are impacted in the area, and I just shared with you that people are deciding not to. People are deciding not to.
Letter to Congress that there's not enough money to help people
We're
in North Carolina.
We're talking about the SBA disaster loan.
That's
yes.
money for people in North Carolina.
And that's important, and people in North Carolina need that. Wait, this is nothing new. Peter, this is nothing new. Congress comes together, they provide money, millions of dollars, for disaster relief. We're asking them to do the job that they have been doing for some time.
From a letter that President
They're
Biden
doing
sent to
for
Johnson,
some
McConnell,
time.
Schumer, and Jeffries. The president's letter is not misinformation. Would you agree?
No, the way you're asking me the question is misinformation. There.
How the fuck are we supposed to deal with a press secretary who doesn't want to answer questions because she doesn't like their insolent tone or whatever it is? Answer the question as presented to you. You don't get to critique the damn question. This is one of the biggest tap dances I've ever seen.
Yeah, Gene, misinformation is the new racism, right? When they don't want to answer a question, they just say, well, it's misinformation. That's fucking bullshit, man. How could a question be misinformation? Right? I'm asking you a question based off of these real things that are in front of me. Like
the original question was, I'd like to clarify what's going on with this money. So we have the money for Lebanon, but we have to call Congress in for money for Americans. Did I get that right?
I'd rather she just call him a white supremacist and get it over with, right? Like, she's so absurd, this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely beyond the pale at this point. But you know what, my friend? This is emblematic of the silly season. This is emblematic of where we are in election season. It's getting down to crunch time. So any question that comes up that might be a gotcha or might go viral has to be tamped down by this White House. That's what's going on.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed. Listen, we're just about at the end of the show here. I got a celebration to do for the Mets with my family. We're going to watch some post-game Phillies stuff and just laugh out loud about that stuff. We might want to tell Debo, tune into YouTube and watch all the Philly fans crying. But for right now, it's final thought time. Do you have something?
Yeah.
Or do we sort of go through everything?
No. So let me close with this thought. Really, guys, take nothing for granted, right? Love Trump or hate him. There really is no option at this point. Elon Musk kind of nailed it, where he said, we make a big deal over every election cycle, but this truly could be the last election. You want to talk about threats to democracy? They're running a candidate that got 0 votes, misinformation, disinformation, all this BS, cheap, fake stuff, right? And they imported millions, tens of millions of people that are going to be put on the voter rolls if they win this election. And the country will never recover. Never. So love Trump or hate him, you need to close that border and you need mass deportations, right? And there's a lot of other good stuff that will come with all of that, right? All of a sudden the census in the schools will go down and the police departments will be less strained, right? You have to vote for Trump this cycle. Even if you have to bite your tongue when you do it, you got to do it. Take nothing for granted. Vote early. Dare I say vote often, and vote for Donald Trump.
Well, that is the Democrat way, though, isn't it? My final thought, obviously, all of our thoughts and prayers across the nation are with the American South, especially in Florida, especially North Carolina, especially Georgia. Everyone that's in the path of these hurricanes, we hope that you and your families are safe. We love you. We hope that everything turns out okay for you, because we're seeing right now, there may be some empathy and sympathy for these people, but it looks like the system, once again, as we saw during Superstorm Sandy, at least my family did, feels like the federal government is coming up short yet again with another disaster. And I certainly hope that all of you out there remain safe. And yes, this election is important, but your safety comes first. That being said, I want to echo what you said, Galloway. There's an old expression we used to use when we were running elections, and it was mainly because it was true. Run as if you're 5 points down with 30 days to go. All these trending numbers that we talked about, the internal polling from Wisconsin, from Michigan, from Pennsylvania, that we talked about in the top of the show, that's all well and good, and the trend is Donald Trump's friend and all that. Yes, that's fine. But there is a whole lot of time left on the clock. We can make all the sports analogies you want. You can make all the life analogies you want. Trump needs to run like he's 5 points down, because he very well might be in a lot of places. That means shore up your bases in places where you're ahead, strategically use your resources in places where you're close, and if you're behind by a lot, that's all she wrote in those places. This election is going to come down, like we've been saying for so long, to about 8 to 10 states. It's 8 to 10 different statewide elections. That's where your money and your resources should be going. This whole thing at Madison Square Garden, I think, is ego. It's a blunder. And I sincerely hope that Donald Trump is not making the mistake that Hillary Clinton did back in 2016 that we talked about earlier. So that's it for us, pal. Good show, considering we got off to a late start and I had to scramble and all that. I appreciate it, and I'm glad you're off your double secret probation from last week. I'm sorry I had to bar you, but it was for your own good.
Make sure you get your jacket back from the press secretary, Gene.
I'll do my best, and who knows, maybe I'll wear it for the next show. Listen, guys in the chat and ladies in the chat and everybody else in between in the chat, whether you're watching on X, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Rumble, please like and share the show with your friends, subscribe to the channels, hit the notification bells wherever you are if they're applicable so you don't miss any other shows. It's time to shut this sucker down. Raptor Man, thanks for coming into the chat with us. It was a fun show hanging out with you as well. I'm glad you're bringing friends along. Valiant Thor, that was also in there with us. I appreciate you. Jeff, thanks for hanging out in the chat with us. But for right now, ladies and gentlemen, everybody in between, it's time to shut this sucker down. You ready, brother?
Shut it down, bro.
All right. From Ross Galloway and myself here behind enemy lines, we are out of here. Now hit our motherfucking anthem.
Not allowed, not without electoral.
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear?
This special presentation of Talented Return to KLRNRadio will continue with the triumphant return of SHR Media's very own Sackhead Sean and the Edge of Liberty coming in next after this short commercial break. I'm Nick Robinson, General Manager of KLRNRadio. Thanks for semi-day off tonight. I feel like somebody ran me over with a truck. We got to get that license plate, by the way. All right, we'll be right back.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us on the Big Friday show. Make an adjustment. There we go. There we go. It's a little bit better. Hopefully your week's going well. I know it's, well, it's been a rough week in this country. I have absolutely zero doubt about that. If you're still recovering from the path of fleeing, and we're going to get into all of that and just what an atrocity it's become here very shortly. But if you're in the zone and you're still trying to get help, which apparently FEMA is not very good at right now, we have you in our thoughts, and we hope all these nonprofits and all these private citizens and all these people who are really stepping up do a good job and keep doing what they're doing, I guess is a better way to put it. That would be amazing. We will get to that shortly. But first I want to start off nice and easy. I want to talk about internet trolls and how lovely internet trolls are. So one of the joys, I guess, to put it bluntly, one of the joys. Oh, okay, no, I didn't change that. One of the joys of being on X of the trolls, and it's election season. And one of the things that you really have to pay attention to is 90% of these trolls that are on here are not from this country. They're not. They're talking about American elections like they're here. And then when you call them out on it, they go through the whole, well, I'm still here and I can still have the conversation and you're a coward because you won't engage me. Bullshit. Bullcrap. Sorry. Daytime show, Sean. Daytime show. And it just blows my mind repeatedly that they all have the same MO. You can tell the ones that are working in these bot farms, they have this, their script copy and pasted, and I'm sure they have all their little subjects lined up and they can pick and choose, and it auto translates into English, yada, yada, yada. It's amazing to me how many of them there are, and they all the same way. Look, as soon as you see like not a face, it's usually not a face, or if it is a face, it's like a real generic picture, and you can tell who they are. Go in and look at their profile. They'll have an account made in like 2013 and have 96 followers, 150 followers. I'll tell you right now, with my little Twitter following on this new account, I still probably have 200 followers that I know are absolutely the adult website bots that are just out there following anyone, and they'll comment on one thing and then they'll follow you. Hopefully you'll engage to try to get money out of you. Different type of bot. But if you're on and you're engaging enough, those bots will follow you, and you probably get like 200 of them in your followers. So they don't even have that because they fire up these accounts every 2 years in our election cycle. And it blows my mind how many of them love to have a comment on our election cycle. Yeah, and I'm not just saying like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea or blah, blah, blah. It's never engaging. You know, when I try to engage people from other countries, and I try to do it a little bit humble, like, I know it's not my country, but yada, yada, yada. And they don't do that. They talk to you like first they're here voting, and then when you kind of call them out on it, they're like, ah, crap, all right, he's got me. So now I'm just going to admit it and say it doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. They'll, as soon as you call them out, all they do is just start belittling you and telling you why you're wrong. It went from whatever subject they were commenting on. The one this morning was this little weasel. I commented on Robert Reich and his ridiculous comments. And this guy like laid into me. And then when we drew it out, and I love, if I have the time, and I did, I was watching the press briefing, I'm just jacking around, and I'll engage some of these bots just because it makes me giggle. I'm a jerk like that. But then all they do is just start like trying to get you more and more, and I just throw it back at them. So if you get those engagements, that's the easiest way. Go into their account, look at how many followers they have and when the account was made, because most of them are a bot farm. Iran, China, Russia, I'm sure other countries as well. And all they love to do is just sit there and throw a shade at you. You hate me because you ain't me type thing, which is my favorite. So we just had the White House press briefing. It's amazing how they cover the jobs report, so I'll get that into a minute. But as we're rebranding here at SHR Media and updating and just trying to figure out what's will work now compared to before and what won't work, etc., I will start hosting White House press briefings, Pentagon press briefings, stuff like that, because behind the scene, I want to make sure certain things are working, certain things are triggering, whatever. So today I carried the White House press briefing from the White House website, just because I just wanted to put something on before my show so I could check a few things. What are the odds that Joe Biden would walk in? First time he's ever found the press briefing room. Now, I will absolutely entertain the fact that it might have been accidental, and I am starting chat. So if you're listening on Rumble, whatnot, YouTube, I'm starting the chat right now. I apologize. Facebook. All right, chat's running. What are the odds of Joe Biden? And look, I have a couple clips I want to try to get back to here somewhere, where Joe Biden was a couple of interviews and questions recently off the cuff, where he was going to or coming from the White House. It's not good. It's not good. I don't know how I don't know. I mean, I know why they hid it for so long, but I don't understand how people, even on the left, were okay with this for as long as it was. I mean, it was everywhere. I mean, it was obvious why they hid him in the basement, yada, yada, yada. And then you start talking to him, or you start getting him to talk. And I want to play this briefing. Jerry Callahan posted this on his X. And I want you to like just got back from North Carolina. Just got back from North Carolina. North Carolina and Tennessee are in the midst of trying to recover from an absolutely hellacious and horrific flood situation from the Hurricane Helene. There's still hundreds missing. There's over 200 dead. The FEMA response has been under question from day one, and rightfully so, as we will get into in the show. And Joe's walking back into the White House, I believe. And this question's asked. I want you to listen to this. It's mind-boggling.
What do the states of the storm zone need, Mr. President? Okay. What do the states of the storm zone, what do they need after what you saw today?
Oh, in the storm zone.
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering what storm you're talking about. They're getting everything they need, and they're very happy across the board.
What do the states of the
What? The storm zone? What storm zone? I didn't know which one you were talking about. Oof. You just spent all day there. It's been nonstop because you even did like the whole press briefing with the North Carolina governor of getting mad and yelling about how Trump was wrong. And why is everybody so upset? There's a million different reasons, but I'm going to talk on a government level. Why everyone's mad at FEMA, why everyone's mad at the federal government? Because there was no response. The emergency declaration, I think, was just signed 48 hours ago or less from the feds. It's a nightmare. People are not getting what they need. And a day after or 2 days after we just sent billions overseas to Ukraine, people are told they're getting $750 from the federal government. The people who are in this zone, who lost everything. And BZ played a clip in his show last night. I won't play that one again. It was great. It was a guy saying, hey, I have insurance, but, and he's 100% right. Just because you have insurance doesn't mean the first couple of weeks you're not going to be in more trouble. And these people are getting $750 a day. $750 a day. It's so maddening. And this is, I'm legitimately like shuddering because I'm angry about this. Maui, they got 700 a day. And I'm pretty sure we were sending money overseas too. When does it end? That's my question. How much money has been directed away from FEMA from disaster response to illegal immigrants? How many? How much? Give me a number, because whatever it is, it's too much. Once American citizens are not the priority, it is too goddamn much. And I don't care. I don't care about their status or whatever. Law enforcement, there's variations of the same, but it's, you can't help anyone if you can't help yourself. In other words, you have to keep yourself up, moving, mobile, and able during a conflict, during a fight, during a whatever. Because if you go down, you can't help anybody else. You have to be able to keep yourself in the fight. America is not doing that for its own people. It's not keeping us in the fight. And look, I said this Monday when I did the Helene show, and I'll say it again. I am fortunate to be sitting here in a warm, comfortable chair. I had food this morning. I know where I slept last night. I know where I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm okay. I'm fortunate. But there are people who are trying to recover from this, who are not fortunate. The ones who, and I mean, it's been a week. The storm hit a week ago. And there are people still trying to figure out how to get food and water. And I know I got into this argument a couple different places. I understand the infrastructure for the roads and everything were really bad. And I understand the damage was tremendous. But you had, and still have, a ton of private citizens with helicopters who are bringing stuff in their own helicopters with their own gas, or businesses, nonprofits with their own fuel, with their own equipment, bringing in food and water and resources that they brought themselves. And I'm going to show you the evidence of people, some of the lengths people are going to just to bring the slightest bit of care to people in need. And watch this. If I don't screw it up again. There it is. There's no sound, and I apologize. There are people on horseback. People on horseback there are people on horseback, their own horses, bringing in what's desperately needed to people who are suffering, and they are suffering. And the federal government is not doing anything. You had Mayorkas come out and say, hey, just so you know, we're about to run out of money for FEMA. FEMA's just about to run out of money. How? And I get it. The other thing people don't realize too, this argument was, well, we didn't shut down the government. No, emergency sources and services and FEMA and things like that, public safety, military, they still continue. They absolutely still continue. It's everything else that shuts down. So don't let them fool you with that. I love how people throw that out there when they talk about the shutdown. But you have people, and if you just go through social media, this was shared by Katie Palvich today, and this is a good one too, of just people doing their own thing, trying to help. Because if you listen to the people in the zone, the federal government is not doing a damn thing. In Black Mountain today, rescuing horses, didn't see many government personnel other than some cops, just normal people helping other people. And this was sent to her by a friend, right? And they have their own horse trailer. They're just out there trying to rescue horses. There was a horse rescued from floodwaters from a rooftop that's been up there apparently for the week. I'm not 100% sure. But you have people all over the place who are showing up and doing it. And the worst part is the federal government's telling them to stop. They're telling them to stop. They put up flight restrictions for 4 hours yesterday. You have people with their own helicopters, their own money, their own fuel, who are loading up their own choppers and other off-road vehicles, etc., to get around the roads. You have Elon Musk, who has been shipping Starlinks in there left and right. Remember when the government tried to hammer him for Starlink, but that's neither here nor there right now. Who's turned it on for at least 30 days. And I know if it's needed more, I'm sure Elon will turn it on more. Right? You have all these other non-government entities who are actually doing something, and the federal government is telling them to stop. They're threatening pilots who, if you don't listen to what they say, they're going to arrest them. They're threatening drone, and here's the story right here from the New York Post. It's a perfect example. They're threatening drone operators, and if you haven't seen these giant oversized drones that people have, it's amazing. And what they've been doing is groups of them have been attaching however much they can carry in food, water, and resources, and using these giant oversized drones to go into stricken areas. Most of the drones stay under 400 feet because that's the drone requirement. But then you see this, and you want to talk about trying to upset or discourage people from trying to help other Americans in need. Here you go. This is from the New York Post. Helicopter pilot threatened with arrest after flying rescue missions in flood-ravaged North Carolina. A South Carolina pilot who flew stranded Hurricane Helene victims in flood-ravaged North Carolina to safety, claims he was told he'd be arrested if he continued his mission. Jordan Seedhorn, who was flying victims out of devastation over the weekend, when local leaders told him there were flight restrictions in the area and they would arrest him if he continued making flights. Yep. Go ahead. Keep saving people and we're going to throw your ass in jail. That's exactly what they said. Why? I get there needs to be coordination. Okay, check in. Look, get Air Force combat controllers on the ground, right? You can manage this. You can have volunteers and manage this. It's not hard in the grand scheme of things, especially when people need help. Arrest. Start threatening people with arrest. Go ahead. Watch how that works out in the future. I take a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. I'm going to keep going with this because there's so much more to talk about. It's absolutely ridiculous. Be right back here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Happy Friday. Hey, I will be throwing out my drink of the week, Friday drink of the weekend, whatever you want to call it. If you're in the chat room over on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook, go ahead and throw something in the chat. I can respond to you. I will respond to you, unless you're, somebody I know, and I'm just trying to prove a point. So we're going to go back. So with all of this outrage that has just been rightfully thrown at FEMA and the feds, you would think that they'd respond with something, I don't know what the word is. Essentially ownership, right? You think they could very easily come out and say, you know what? Yeah, we didn't start this off well. I know you guys have seen all the social media of people needing help that aren't getting it. I know there are people in pararescue groups, active pararescue groups that have group chats going who are saying, hey, we're on the ground really close. We have all these resources and we're not doing anything other than escorting VIPs around. That's true. Pararescue jumpers are the Air Force Special Forces. They go in and get down pilots, but they also do a lot of rescue and recovery during times like this. They're amazing, as are all of our military members. You're the 82nd Airborne, apparently, who there's a bunch of people from that group chat complaining that they weren't able to respond or they weren't being allowed to respond. It's just, there's so much bad press, rightfully so, coming out of this at FEMA. And I didn't expect to do 30 minutes on this, but it's just so insane that you can't ignore it. You cannot ignore this. But yet the federal government, man, they love to get the match when the gas comes out to light you up. Look at this. Rumor control. This is put up by FEMA. There's been a lot of rumors spreading about the Helene response. Rumors can create confusion and prevent people from getting assistance they need. Help us share accurate information. And then there's a link. Don't trust your lying eyes, folks. That's what they're saying right there. Don't trust your lying eyes. Do not. Whatever you do, don't trust what you're seeing on social media. Don't trust videos of people saying, hey, we need help. Hey, we're not getting the help we need. And then the nonprofits are starting to jump in, which these national nonprofits who've been around for a long time, and this one particular, it's from the American Red Cross. And I here, misinformation is hurting Hurricane Helene relief efforts. Their little quote at the top says, misinformation can spread quickly after a disaster, causing confusion and distrust within communities struggling to recover. Unfortunately, we're seeing this during our response to Hurricane Helene. Oh, and Twitter did not, or X did not want to play nice with me. But that's another big one, right? That's the American Red Cross. Now, look, the American Red Cross does do some great things, right? But you don't need, they don't need to be doing this. They just need to do the American Red Cross thing. And I'll tell you, I've heard some horror stories in the past about the Red Cross that I don't want to share right now because it's not the time. But the simple fact of the matter is this information needs to get out there. People need to hear this. Why? Because at the end of the day, when all of this is said and done, there needs to be a review on this response. There has to be. There's no way there can't be a review on this response. It was terrible. So residents are posting their experience through all of this all over social media, and it's amazing. And you go from the people who need help that are posting what they're not getting. And I have a bunch of those too. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to do the whole show. I have like 15 other things I want to talk about, but it's just making me so angry. And then you have this post here, and I'm going to let this play out. But this is a Tennessee resident who says that FEMA in Tennessee has sent out text messages telling everyone, do not help your neighbors. And you just watch this and tell me what you think.
Well, you're going to have to just excuse my appearance because we have no power. We have no running water. But I'm just so pissed off that I've got to make this clear. We got a notification from TEMA. I'm guessing that's FEMA for Tennessee. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's supposed to be the disaster relief people, but they were like, do not donate your time. We don't want you to donate time unless we ask for you. And we don't want you to donate stuff to other people. You need to just donate money and stuff to us and get your instructions from us and listen to us. What? And then you say, they said yesterday, we don't go into areas that the roads are not easily accessible. What? You are the disaster relief people. Like, that is your job, to go into the areas that are hit by disaster and provide relief, not to just go to the easy area and sit and wait for the people that are in the disaster area to be able to come to you. The roads that we do have were cleared by the locals, and you have to have trucks and stuff to be able to get through there. Like, it's just beyond me. So, and you have us all messed up. If you think you're going to come here and bark orders at us and then expect the people just to give you the money and us trust that you're going to try to take care of us when you don't go into areas that are not easily accessible. What? Like, this is Cott County, girl. So donate to our local churches, because they will make sure that the people that are need it will get it. And you need to just, while we appreciate what help you're trying to provide, I don't think you understood the assignment, because it's not to just go to one location in hopes that the people in the disaster area can make it to you. So just sit back and watch, and we'll show you how it's done, but we're not going to stop. So please and thank you.
Imagine being in one of these zones where everything you've lost, or everything you've had, is lost. Your whole life is lost and turned upside down and inside out. And the people you're expecting, who you pay taxes, damn good tax money to, who are supposed to be there, are not. But you watch billions go overseas. You watch billions go to the illegals who are coming over the border so they can live in hotels in New York City and not pay rent for 6 months at a time, so they can get food cards and get cash. They get debit cards with cash, like $2,000 a month in some places. Never mind all the other services that they are, in fact, getting. And you are being told not to help your neighbor. Mind your own damn business. That's what they're being told. Mind your own damn business. There's another. I know. I said I was going to move on. I just can't. It's making me so freaking angry. Here's another one from Sean Davis. Information learned from the Federalist. Despite Biden promising that days ago 1,000 active duty troops would be on the ground in North Carolina, only 375 have been tasked with a specific assignment, the Federalist has learned. And of those 375, none of those tasks were search and rescue efforts. Now, I know there were some search and rescue efforts being made. I do, because I've seen the video, and I'm not saying that the government is doing an excellent job. He's talking about that specific 1,000 troops. 375 have been given tasks, but that leaves the remainder, 625, not given tasks. And again, I know it's hard to get around. I know it's hard to get around. I've watched the carnage for how hard it is to get around. And I wish for the life of me that somebody, I think for this, we should listen to somebody whose voice is very important in this sort of situation. It's Nancy Pelosi.
But I will say this, that any objective observation of what has happened in the first 4 or 5 days in the Gulf state would say that this is not a success, that we can do better as a country. And again, we have to evaluate the actions that we're taking, the judgments that were made, because we still have people on roofs of buildings. We still have people who are sick, who are not receiving oxygen. We have children who are not in school. The list goes on and on and on. There is, whatever the judgment is about the leadership that has happened right now, if we think that this was a good example of leadership, we have indeed lowered our standards as a nation. And again, to this gentleman, but I will.
Nancy Pelosi, 100% right. That was for Katrina, when a Republican who wasn't a conservative, but he was a Republican, was in office. And then she was mad. And it was okay to question the government response then, and that's what they did. Right? Politics all the time. Was the Katrina response messy? Absolutely. Is there a lot of things that went into that is different with this? Yeah. People were told to evacuate and they didn't. And I don't want that to be confused with they deserve what they got, because it's not. But the simple fact of the matter is they were told to get out and they chose to stay in their homes, and it made it very, very difficult. These people were not told to get out. Nobody predicted it was going to hit the Asheville, North Carolina area like it did. Nobody. You may have had like one or two voices. There's a lot of independent meteorologists who are on social media, and I'm sure you can dig up a couple who probably said, hey, this is going to be bad, and we should probably did. And it got worse. And this is my last video I want to play on this topic, and then I'm going to move on, because I got 5 minutes to my next break, and then 20 minutes to the end of the show after that. So I do have a couple of things I want to cover, but this is from Representative Anna Paulina Luna about the money that went to illegals.
North Carolina is underwater, 1,000 people missing. While Pinellas County, we had 11 deaths, and we have a majority of our residents that aren't going to be able to come back to their homes because they're completely destroyed. You have Mayorkas, the Biden-Harris administration, and radical leftists in Washington, mostly in the Democrat Party, gave illegals $1.1 billion in housing assistance. People that never paid into the system. Mind you, they wouldn't have been here in the first place if they weren't campaigning on open borders, but that's a separate video. You should be pissed. And if you think as a legislator, I'm not pissed, and I don't see the games that happen in Washington, hoping that you're not paying attention, because that's how it goes up there, is they hope the American people are too busy working to pay attention to the crap that they're doing. I'm telling you, you need to get out and vote, because this is not going to stop. It's just going to continue with the inflation, with the border security issues. And now we have Americans that are literally dying, not being able to get assistance. And the administration says, it's okay, we'll give you $750. Meanwhile, they said our tax dollars overseas to fund countries that don't need it, and they give it to illegal immigrants.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're all saying the same thing over and over again, but it needs to be said. This needs to be said repeatedly because there is absolutely no reason. No reason. Look, we knew Katrina was going to be bad. The amount of resources that were swarmed into the area when it was worse than we were expecting, and it was. Remember, they said Katrina was going to be horrible, and it ended up being 50 times worse, right? Same thing. But we also have the world's greatest military, hands down. We have a decent infrastructure by and large. FEMA keeps thousands of contracts with logistic and trucking companies, so they're ready to go in times like this. There's water storage, there's food banks. They have all this stuff. And it was slow rolled. It was slow rolled. You can't, there's no way it wasn't slow rolled. There's no other way around it at this point. You can't tell me this is the best we have to offer these victims. And if it is, then yeah, FEMA needs to be gutted totally. If this is the best we can offer our Americans in need, FEMA needs to be gutted. And look, I've said before, I've said it on social media, I've actually worked in a FEMA disaster area. I've seen how they operate firsthand. It was in northern Massachusetts, the Haverhill area, when they had a massive flooding. It used to be really well coordinated. Resources were there, everything from search and rescue to food, shelters, hospitals, and then even recovery stuff was already there. You had insurance representatives there in 24 hours, 48 hours. You had small business there. You had all of these resources that are just showed up and blasted out. And this was post 9/11, and I think post Katrina as well, obviously. And you're not seeing that here. You're seeing more videos. And I know like people take their own videos to show on social media, but you're seeing more help coming from everyday average people in these small groups. And sometimes they're not even groups. They're not even nonprofits. They're just people. I've seen videos of people just gathering, buying water from New York, state of New York, renting U-Hauls and driving it down and meeting up with Mercury One and all of these other groups who are doing these wonderful things and just saying, hey, this is all the food and water we could find. I hope you can get this to people in need. It's all over social media. The one thing, thank goodness for Elon Musk, because how much of this would have been throttled and you would not have seen it. By the way, Elon, who said, or Starlink said earlier today, they're sending even more Starlinks down there. So at least people and public safety and everybody else can communicate. Hotels, from what I'm seeing, and I haven't confirmed this independently, but it wouldn't shock me because the FEMA people need to live somewhere. FEMA's renting out all these hotels for their people, and it's close to where the disasters are, and regular people are either priced out because $750 or there's no vacancy. There were literally people hiking out of the disaster area yesterday. I saw that on social media as well. Hiking out on foot with kids, animals, whatever, going around giant road collapses. It's insane to me. I'm up against a break. We come back, we talk about the election. There's so much news just to talk about there. Be right back right here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Edge of Liberty. My name is Sean. I am your host right here on the SHR Media Network. Hey, if you are so inclined, check us out, shrmedia.com. Not going to lie, absolutely love my new music. If you don't know who I am, I was the host of Sackheads Radio, one of the hosts of Sackheads Radio for years here on SHR Media Network. I hosted the show originally on a station out of Philadelphia. I write on SHR Media and all that jazz. So follow us Facebook, on Twitter. If you're following and you have an X, not Twitter. I know I dead named it. Damn it. They're all going to come after me. Please follow me on X, the number 2 Against Tyranny on X, the number 2 Against Tyranny. Facebook, SHR Media Group. YouTube, SHR Media. You'll see the logo like that guy. Also on Rumble, Twitch, pretty much anywhere. So I want to get into the election. I know we only have 17 minutes left to go. You know you're suffering when first of all, they've changed how they're attacking Trump. I don't know if you've realized that. They've even with the Jack Smith thing that came down yesterday, it was a bunch of BS. It's not saying anything that they haven't alleged before, and the case isn't going to go anywhere, and we all know that. So they released all that, blah, 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 blah. The media tried to run with it for about 12 hours, and it just didn't happen. I mean, it is so not talked about right now all over the place. Yeah, some places are commenting on it, but it's not like what I was expecting to be with these massive headlines where they're just repeating. But James Carville, who has been a critic, he would sell his soul for Harris to get in the office, don't get me wrong. But he's been vocal about how the campaign has been run and is being run. And this little clip right here, it's about 43 seconds. It's an audio clip only. You'll see a picture of James, but he's not talking. It didn't freeze. And I want you to listen to what he says. This is not good.
What the fuck are you people doing? Get off your ass. Move, move, move. Why isn't Harris herself out today talking about that? This is not an issue that people don't care about. It's not a nitpicking thing. And I got to tell you, the White House response, and I think by and large, to a large extent, the press response is not at all measured to the gravity of this lie, of the importance of this, of you're lying about people's goddamn lives, all right? What the fuck are y'all doing in the Harris campaign? Get her out there now, now.
Woo! The Raging Cajun's pissed. And like I said, he's criticizing because he's furious. He's absolutely furious because he doesn't think that their response to this, to pushing back on the hurricane was good. But just the fact that he's saying that publicly now, and I know he's never been one to be shy, but the fact that he's belching that out so loudly and unabashed, and just, it's, you never saw this before. Even with him, you'd see some criticism, but he'd be relatively, Democrats are scrambling. There's a lot of negative things coming out from inside the Harris Waltz campaign. Look, we all saw, I'm not going to go too far into it, the VP debate with Vance and Waltz. And as soon as Van Jones and the other ones came out and started calling him slick, and Van Jones said, "Oh, that's what they taught us at Yale," which was funny to me because I'm like, "Oh, so that means everything you say is a lie because you're saying everything J.D. Vance said was a lie, essentially, and the whole point is to be slick and then lie while you're being slick." Okay, thanks, Van Jones. We always knew you were a liar, but you just confirmed that if what you're saying is true, or you had nothing else to go after Vance about, and Waltz was a disaster. I mean, he was. If you go back, it didn't seem as bad that night. He did better, I think, than most people expected him to, because he didn't just fall apart. Like I think a lot of people were expecting him just to be so flustered. I think most people knew going in that Vance was going to kind of have the edge. He didn't do that, but he wanted to. You could tell by all of his faces, and the memes are out there. They're absolutely amazing. Where he called himself a knucklehead and he gets caught up in the rhetoric and he just says stuff sometimes. He said that, he made friends with school shooters, which we all knew wasn't what he meant, but he said it, right? It's amazing. And they glossed over it. The whole left news media glossed over it like it wasn't a big deal. But it's simple fact is he got called out for his abortion bill that did originally, and everybody posted the original law, allow abortion up to birth. Now, whether you agree or disagree with abortion, the point is he outright lied about it. Outright lied. It was bold-faced like you wouldn't believe. Bald-faced, bold-faced, everyone says it differently. I've seen bald-faced, I've seen bold-faced. How do you say it? I don't know. I've always said bold-faced lie because you're lying with a bold face. You're not even showing how much of a lie it is. And then, your campaign is in trouble when you have this person that you're campaigning with.
Donald Trump was willing to sacrifice our capital to allow law enforcement officers to be beaten and brutalized in his name, and to violate the law and the Constitution in order to seize power for himself. I don't care if you are a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. That is depravity, and we must never become numb to it. Any person who would do these things can never be trusted with power again. We must defeat Donald Trump on November 5th.
First of all, she's the definition of a megalomaniac. Anything to hold power, right? She lost her position like Kinzinger. She proved that she was not a conservative. She proved that she was a rhino. The January 6th committee, the amount of lies that committee was allowed to throw out, and everybody on the left was just barking seals, clapping along. Oh, this is great. They're so good. Right? The January 6th, if you ever read the report, it's a shit show. It's daytime. It's a mess. When she got bounced out of her seat, all of a sudden, she was anti-Trump before. And why? I'll tell you exactly why. Same reason why Daddy was how he was. Dick Cheney. Warhawks. What did Trump do? He didn't start any new wars, and he was trying to end a war. He was limiting our military involvement in conflicts around the world. He brought peace to the Middle East with the Abraham Accords. It was the only time, as J.D. Vance said, in the last, 30 years that we weren't in conflict, or we were trying to end wars and not starting new ones. She hated that. Why? Because her and her friends make millions off a war. So when she was bounced out because the liberals have become the war hawks, when she was bounced out, she was already anti-Trump. She got even more anti-Trump. And now she's going to go ahead and campaign for Harris. She's a slug at best. She's a slug. Anything to maintain relevancy and potentially power. You think she's doing this because she likes Kamala Harris? Look, most people, and this is not a secret in Washington, D.C., do not like Kamala Harris as a person. Behind closed doors, she was like this in California. Like I said, I know people that worked with the AG's office. In her office in Washington as a senator and as the vice president, look at the amount of turnover rate that she had in her office because of how contentious she was to work with. Kamala Harris is not this sweet person that everybody wants to make her out to be. The giggles are not real. They're uncomfortable giggles, but it's not because she's this happy-go-lucky. Joy is the absolute funniest campaign slogan they could have, given that she has shown her true self over and over again. She went out and called Biden a racist when she was running, when she got less than 1% and had to dump her campaign. And then this time around, what did she do? She pulled a coup on him. She pulled a coup on the Democratic Party, too, because they weren't allowed to have a primary. I know they're all revisionist history people and going to say, oh, we were never going to have an open vote for who was going to replace Biden. It was always going to be Kamala. No. They were throwing names around left and right. Remember, up until the coup happened, up until we all saw how bad Biden was, they were talking about getting rid of Kamala Harris as vice president because she polled so poorly. And then the coup happens, and now she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. The greatest thing. Proof, by the way, that the Democrats will just follow any line of BS they're told to. Because I'll tell you right now, and I've seen this a few times on social media, there's been a few honest people who said, I don't care if she, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, I don't care if she barbecues a kitten in front of a schoolroom of children, I'm voting for her anywhere because Orange Man bad. That's it. Now, I also see plenty of people say, I don't like Donald Trump, but my life was better under him, and that's why I'm going to vote for him. There's a very big difference. Voting for someone because you hate the other person, or voting for someone that, despite their personality, you saw in their job that they did previously, that they did it well, and you would like that again. It blows my mind that people will vote for her after she was polling at 32% as vice president? 32%. Herpes was polling higher than Kamala Harris was. I probably just got demonetized somewhere, but it's true. The only thing Kamala Harris polled better was Congress, and they were like 18%. But then now all of a sudden she's the sweetheart, right? And this tells you, I'm going to pull up a Morning Joe clip from today. This tells you, listen to Joe, which Joe Scarborough is, he's a megalomaniac, just like that slug Cheney is. And that's all I call her, is the slug. But listen to Joe.
The question is, though, for them, do you want votes to be counted 4 or 5 days after the election, or do you want to win on election night?
Unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, they're going to be counted a couple days after election, no matter what.
Or at Arizona and Nevada. But if they want this thing over on election night, they are going to have to do better with older white men and with Hispanics. Those are the two.
I don't know if you saw the runner at the bottom where it said firefighter union declines to endorse Harris or Trump. They have endorsed Democrats for the longest period of time. There yet another union that did not endorse Kamala Harris. Why? Because the vast majority of their union are Trump supporters. But the union bosses who get millions, like the longshoreman jerk, who makes $900,000 a year, who is going to hold the country hostage until, I'm sure, a wink and a nudge was given of, hey, if Kamala gets in, we'll take care of you on the other side. Just don't do this to us right now, because if you do this, you'll grind the country to a halt. Prices will go through the roof. There will be major shortages in supermarkets and stores. The people will get pissed. Gas prices will go up, and you will be doing more damage to Kamala. Please, please, please don't keep striking. And of course, the strike was ended, which I saw was coming. And I said in my article on shrmedia.com about it, the longshoremen were smart about this. They suspended the strike till January something after the election, after the confirmation or inauguration, pardon me. They were smart. It's almost like the Democrats do with the budget. They wait to just before an election so they can hang this albatross around people's necks to get leverage, to get what they want. And the longshoreman union did the same thing. They held everybody hostage to get what they want, or threatened to hold them hostage. And then, like I said, the wink and the nudge came. I see now reports that Waltz is canceled. I haven't seen this myself, but I've seen reports that Waltz has canceled a couple things. Look, you have some left leaning media outlets who are now kind of just starting to throw some shade at Waltz. Like, well, if they don't win, it's because Waltz said this or that. And I'll tell you what they're doing. They're setting him up to be a patsy, because if they don't win in November, they're going to blame Waltz. Why? That way Harris can run again. She's not letting go. Even if she loses this time, I'll tell you right now, she's going to start campaigning for 2028. I mark my words. They can't get rid of her, as awful as she is.
The following program,
because they made her who she was.
Themes. Listener discretion is.
They made her who she was from the time she was the DA of San Francisco. They made her who she was. They kept pushing her and pushing her and pushing her up the ladder all the way through senator. She was a horrible AG. She was the most liberal senator ever. She was left of Bernie and AOC and all the other ones. Then they would not vote for her in the primary. Joe picked her because he needed a female and a person of color to help him with females and people of color in this country for votes. They created this monster. She's not going away. So if they lose, you're going to see, my guess would be, it's going to be Vance and Kamala in 2028. Just throwing it out there. Look, I get a minute left. My drink of the week. This is the one I really want you to give it a shot, actually. Give this a good one a shot. And this is good because it's going to teach you how to make cinnamon syrup, which it's good to just have in the fridge for other cocktails. This comes from JosephaMagnus.com's website. 1.5 ounces. Oop, let me make that a little bit bigger for you. It's for the cinnamon bourbon fizz. 1.5 ounces of bourbon, an ounce of Aperol. If you don't have Aperol around, you really need to. A little bit of lemon juice. Half an ounce. 1 to 2 dashes of orange or rosemary bitters. I actually would do the rosemary if you get your hands on it. Bitters. Look, folks, if you use bitters, I know everyone knows Angostura, chocolate and orange are becoming more popular. Every time you see a new types of bitters, grab it. If you like making cocktails, man, you can do some wonderful things with it. 1 to 2 ounces of cinnamon syrup. I'd say 1. You know, cinnamon syrup will add a good bite, but it's not going to be like Fireball. It's going to be a natural cinnamon flavor, a real cinnamon flavor. And you don't want it too overpowering because you want that bourbon flavor to come out. And sparkling water for topping. I've made this last year. I will be making it this year. I absolutely hope you like it. It is absolutely a winner. Give it a shot. And you can look at how to upsize those to make freezer door cocktails, to make it larger so you have one ready to go all the time. Beautiful idea. You'll just have to withhold the sparkling water. It won't freeze well, obviously. Folks, that's it for me here on the Edge of Liberty. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. If you can donate to anyone who needs the help down in the Helene-stricken areas or the organizations that are doing great work down there, do it. I'll be back Monday, 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern, right here on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
All right, folks. Actually, for us, he'll be back in just a couple minutes. Again, I am Rick Robinson, General Manager, KLRNDB, otherwise known as KLRNRadio.com. And I'm taking a semi-day off, even though I'm still here running the boards, because I felt like crap today and didn't really want to just throw something up. So we've been running some folks that are back with the network, newer for you guys that are just finding us. And I didn't even realize it today, but there's been a theme. We're all WNJC. I believe it was 1520 back in the day out of Philly. We are all WNJC alums, myself, Gene and Ross, and now Sean, along with Stacy and a few others that are still with me. But yeah, that's that. If I would have thought of that today, that would have been my theme for the broadcast. But here in just a minute, we're going to launch his next one, and then that will conclude us for this afternoon. When we come back, don't forget tonight we should have full lineup. So tonight there should be, I think this is Disasters in the Making. I think they're getting into the Vampire Act. So they should have, I believe this is their week to put up a vampire movie. Then tomorrow, and Jen and Rick tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern. Then I'll be back tomorrow afternoon doing this one again, as long as my migraine is under control as it is right now, which hopefully it is, because it kind of hit me out of the middle of nowhere last night. But and then after that, we'll be doing He Said, She Said. We're getting in on the vampire game on that one too. And then the rest of it we'll talk about later, because I'm already behind schedule. So instead of just doing what I've been doing and playing a commercial, we're just going to go straight into the next one. So hang on just 1 second.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty radio on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Monday and welcome to the Monday Midday Disaster. So much to talk about today. If you're in I'm already getting harassed via chat.
The program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
If you're not in chat, you can go to Rumble, get in chat. You can go to YouTube, get in chat. Facebook, also get in chat, and Twitch. I am monitoring the X chat right there as well. So part of the show. You can also like and subscribe on any of those and all of those platforms. That would greatly help us out in the future. First, we're going to start off a lot to talk about. We're going to get into October 7th. We're going to get into Helene. But I do want to start with what's most pressing and is really scary. Hurricane Milton is coming from the National Weather Service. I don't want to give up my music. There it is. This is coming from the National Weather Service. And man, Florida, I said it before, I'll say it again. I know what you folks can endure. I know you're stout. I know you're ready. I know you're able. But by God, man, be careful. This is frightening. It's just, and it's coming for the Western. Oh, where are you? There we go. coming from the western side of Florida. It's being forecast a Category 5 when it's going to hit, and then even a Category 1 when it goes back out to sea on the other side. Still some questions as to where it's going to go. I know some models are showing that it's going to hug the coast all the way up. Some other models are showing it's going to go back out to sea. But almost all the models are showing that it's going to be a direct impact on the west side of Florida. Hunker down. I know I watched your governor's speech this morning, getting ready for it. Looks like, as always, he has everything ready to go. And like I said, I can't ask for a better governor. I really believe that, especially for Florida. You cannot ask for a better governor. And just, like I said last week, when it comes to Helene, just do what you're told, please. Just listen, pay attention, have your batteries, have your water, have your food. If you expect to be without power, expect to be without power. Act accordingly. Make it so you have your best shot. Look at this right now. Holy cow. That's crazy. Make it so you have your best shot to survive. Like I said, I know you folks down there are ready for anything, and you act. And you always just muscle this stuff out. Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm not kissing ass to Florida to kiss ass to Florida, but it blows my mind how well you folks, and not just the government. I know the government can handle it. Like, I know they have experience. But, man, the people there, and even like I said, Jersey Joe is originally from New Jersey. He's right. I mean, target's right on him. He's getting ready for the show, for the hurricane, not the show tonight. He probably won't be doing his show tonight, and nobody can blame him. But he's like, yeah, just probably going to go out and board it up. And he's a transplant. It's not like he's a native Floridian who grew up with this. He's a transplant, but it's funny how quickly you folks get everything ready to go and get ready to just survive. And like I said, you're fortunate. You have a state government who has dealt with this enough that their pre-planning's in place. They pre-position. They know where to position stuff safely, where to position stuff so it can be in right after the storm. Like they have this down to a pattern. DeSantis and company does a great job with this, which is fantastic. But it's also one of those things that it's still scary, man. It is still scary. So I wish you guys well. Obviously, we still have a little time before it hits. Supposed to be hitting, I think, 7 p.m. Wednesday night. The overnight storm makes it even more scary. Not saying it's easier during the day, but it's definitely more frightening at night, I would think. Somebody said, get to work. And then the chat room, hard work, constant hard work, the kind of work that makes you sweat and tell the truth, the kind of hard work that makes you feel good at the end of an hour. Look, you're going to get at least 70% out of me for this hour, for those in chat that are giving me a hard time. 75%. I'm really going to push it today. Of course, today's also the anniversary of the October 7th attack in Israel, where over 1,000 people perished, and the barbaric, horrific attack that took place from Hamas onto innocent Israeli citizens, folks at a music festival, folks that were in their kibbutz, folks that were in bed, women, babies. They were also taken hostages, which some hostages, Americans as well, are still being held. Israel is waging an all-out war right now against Hamas and Hezbollah to the north. I know there was a lot of, and if you see me watching off to my right, I have a couple video feeds going from the Middle East, specifically Beirut and Israel. Only because, man, how would you like to be like the number 7th or 8th guy in line to lead Hezbollah right now? I mean, seriously, you got to be sweating. I mean, let's break this down. And Israel, man, I've said before, I'll say it again. You can argue with me all you want. I don't want our boots on the ground. Full stop. However, I fully support Israel going to town on this. I really do. If I was Israel, I'd do the same thing. So, and I don't care what international pressure has led them back to October 7th. That's something people miss. Like, yeah, they cut the deal with Hamas that lasted for a few years before the 7th attacks. But part of that was because international pressure constantly says you have to be nice, you have to play nice, you have to play nice, you're the state, you have to play nice, you have to play nice. And October 7th was the result of playing nice with people who want you dead. You play nice with people that are nice to you. And I understand I hate reliving this every time we talk about it, but I know people would be like, well, you got to understand it's just Hamas and not the Gazans. Yeah, I get it. So if you want the Gazans to really be heard, the actual people in Gaza, then why wouldn't you want Hamas eliminated? Same thing with Lebanon. They can say all they want about Lebanon being a sovereign nation, but Hezbollah is clearly running Lebanon. Other than that, it wouldn't be going on right now. This wouldn't have to happen. Hezbollah would not have a foot in the ground. Never mind essentially owning the entire southern portion of Lebanon. And Israel's taking it to them. And I don't blame Israel. I don't care what anyone says. And next up, I'll tell you right now, and there's reports coming out of the Middle East all over the place, not just social media, intel reports that I've seen that were sent to me from other people that I'm not going to share because I was asked not to. But tonight might not be the best night in Iran. It is 10 p.m. local time in Israel, 10:30 in Iran. It's the anniversary of October 7th. Everything goes back to Iran. We could talk all day long about, oh, they shouldn't attack. You hear the State Department, oh, it should be a limited strike back towards Iran, and we should watch this and watch that. No. Iran is responsible for Gaza and Hezbollah, or Hamas and Hezbollah, rather, and the Houthis that we just bombed a couple days ago. They're the reason this attack happened, is Iran. And just, 4 days ago, they unleashed 200 cruise missiles, or 175, whatever the final number was. Now, if I was Israel, if I was Netanyahu, I'd be doing the same thing. Like, we're done playing this game. So a lot of memorials. If you have a second, do your own moment of silence. Go for it. Innocent babies, kids at a concert. Like, October 7th was just absolutely horrific. And I remember seeing a report that if you scaled up population to match Israel's to the United States, it would be like if 40-something thousand Americans were killed that day and a couple thousand taken hostage. And like I said, there's still hostages there. So, man, that's what's going on there. A lot of news today, a lot of news. Let's see, where are we going to go next? Oh, yes. One of my least favorite individuals, but we have to talk about her because we have to. I don't want to. I really hate doing this to you lovely people. I'm not going to lie. I do, because it's not fair. Nobody should be subjected to this, but I'm sorry. Here we go.
If the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm. But if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control.
We lose total control. That's really what they're scared of. They lose total control if it's not monitored, if social media is not monitored, if your First Amendment rights are not limited. See, this is that other brain game that liberals, specifically these progressives who are in charge, and don't get yourself wrong, Hillary Clinton came out, a month ago saying that she was advising the Kamala campaign. She is among the group that's in charge. Yeah, there's Obama still pulling strings. I know all of that. But they are petrified of social media, specifically X. They won't say just X. It's X that bothers them because Elon Musk owns it. By the way, everybody railing on Elon because he joined Trump in Pennsylvania Saturday. And everyone said, oh, he's just a rich guy. He's just a rich guy. Why should he have all this influence? Alex friggin' Soros and George friggin' Soros. That's why he should have the influence that he does. Because just because they're doing it subvertly and he does it overtly does not mean that for years they have not poisoned the political waters in this country. And they have. This is not up for debate. Soros just bought those 200 radio stations. He bought some last year or 2 years ago during the 2022 midterms. Why do they want to limit free speech? Because of X. And you've seen it out of Frankenstein Kerry. You've seen it out of other people. And they equate it, and even what's his name? Tim Waltz. What's his name? That wasn't even intentional. He is so meaningless to me. I could not pull his name out like I can a lot of other people. He equated it to yelling fire in a theater. Well, you can't yell fire in a theater, right? 1919 Supreme Court case, Schneck versus the United States, where Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes used the analogy as to define a limit of freedom of expression. However, what they don't tell you when they bring up the fire in the theater clause is that it had to do with people running out of the theater and being trampled, hurt, or worse. Right? Nobody's running out of X and tripping over each other. Nobody's running off of YouTube and tripping over each other. It is not a threat to anyone's public safety that is imminent. There's a lot of things that leftists say all the time on social media that is untrue, exaggerated, complete lies, altered, scripted, edited, over and over and over. Do we call them out on that when it happens? Absolutely, yes, and we should. That's what we do. Me as a pundit, you as a pundit. Everyone on X is a pundit now. I mean, let's face it, and that's great. I'm not belittling that. I actually am glad that so many people have these voices and can call them out in their BS. But I would never say that I want them limited to what they can say. Why? Because it is so quick that could be used against me, specifically me. I'm worried about me when I say that, right? How do I know that happened? I was trying to start this network under the old Twitter. And by the way, she dead named Twitter. I didn't think they were allowed to do that. Or X. I didn't think they were allowed to do that. It's neither here nor there. Facebook. All of the social media sites. YouTube run by Google. All the social media sites that were throttling conservative voices, and we know that through the Twitter files. This is not up for debate as to whether or not it is allowed or not allowed. You have to allow. It's the First Amendment. Why do you think that case out of California just got thrown out? Right? You know why the case in California just got thrown out, or there's an injunction on it, but it's going to get thrown out totally. The don't say memes clause, as I like to call it. The one Gavin tried to pass because he got butthurt. Because it's illegal. It is illegal to limit the First Amendment. And the First Amendment doesn't mean you can walk up to somebody while they're in public and cuss in their face and disturb their peace. Now, your rights only go as far until they impact others. That's really how it works for individual rights. Until you infringe on somebody else's individual rights. However, you have the right to protest government. You have the right to lawful assembly. You have the right to go on any. It's no different than if you start a newspaper and wanted to print whatever you want. You can do that. Not that anyone would start a newspaper these days, but it's no different for social media. Free speech, much like the Second Amendment, started with rifles and muskets and now applies to all of the weapons that you see out there today that are just glorious and beautiful, and I want to buy so many more. But it also applies the same technology change for social media. You know who wanted to limit the free speech of the revolutionaries? King George. England. Why? They were rabble rousers. They were no good. And going back to the clause of the fire in a theater, I'm going to play this. This is not mine. It is from YouTube, but this is a classic. And I want you to listen I just want you to listen. Tell me if you know what this is from. And if you do, I applaud you. But we'll talk about this for a second.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was, of course, the H.G. Wells adaptation, narrated by Orson Welles for the War of the Worlds broadcast in 1938. 1938. Scared the bejesus out of everybody that was listening. They thought it was legit. They thought aliens were invading. They thought it was all coming to hell. People tried to file lawsuits after the fact, and they all got thrown out because it's protected free speech. There was no imminent threat to anybody because it is protected free speech. Even the FCC investigated and found no violations because it is protected free speech. Once government convinces you that your rights come from them and not natural law, natural rights, once they convince you that government can limit your natural rights, they're winning. And you're going to let them win. Unless you do something about it. Stand up. We're up against a break. When we come back, we talk about a little bit about the election. We'll go to Butler and some other places. Stay tuned. Right here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
ladies and gentlemen, to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Find us on all the social media apps, YouTube, Rumble, right here. And follow me on X at the number 2 against tyranny. Please like and share this if you can. Help a brother out. Little tiny conservative network. We're just trying to make our difference. Trying to preserve as much of this republic as we can. If you look wrong side, if you look over there, if you like anything and you want to buy me a cocktail, I'm not shy. Love me some bourbon. Feel free to kick a little bit. I would greatly appreciate you. So I do want to talk a little bit about some of these betting numbers and poll numbers that are coming out here on the 2024 midterm election. Before we go any further, I will tell you right now, do not have a short memory. And before you say, what do you mean? Well, there was supposed to be a red wave in 2022. Remember we were told that and people stayed home? People stayed home, folks. They stayed home and it was allowed to happen. Why did they stay home? Because the poll numbers, social media, everybody was telling you. I mean, for God's sakes. Oh, no, that's a red wave. We got this in the bag. Got this in the bag, red wave. Y'all were listening to CNN. MSNBC. Oh, where's that red wave now? What do we have? A difference of 3, 4 in the House of Representatives? I forget what it is right now. But the simple fact of the matter is we got complacent. We didn't keep foot on gas. We didn't add the nitrous. We didn't push to the end. We didn't make it embarrassing. And we should have. We absolutely should have made it embarrassing. The fact that we didn't, let me get that out of the way. The fact that we didn't make it embarrassing is embarrassing. So then this year, and I don't remember this. If I'm wrong, somebody in chat tell me. But if I'm wrong, I'll own it. Do you remember betting odds being such a big deal as they are during this election cycle? The odds of who's going to win and who's going to lose over in Vegas. And I understand that money's on the line. And everyone's saying, well, you know, I see this argument a lot is, well, polls are one thing, but betting odds are much different because, you know, there's money on the line and they're not going to give up money. Okay. Have you ever seen the betting at the NFL, the NBA, all this other stuff where there are plenty from chat, ladies and gentlemen. You're wrong there. I told you. I really appreciate that. There are plenty of things that you can bet on. There's some questionable authenticity to the outcomes of those events. Remember, people that run betting websites, people that set these numbers, whatever, they're trying to make money too. Las Vegas was not built on the victory and cheers of people winning money. Las Vegas and every other casino was built on the tears and money of losers. I have been a loser in Las Vegas. I have been a loser in Reno. I've been a loser in a lot of different places. I do enjoy to gamble from time to time, but I understand the risk, and I also understand the house has the advantage. There's a few games where it doesn't, I know. Poker, stuff like that. But most games, the house has the advantage. What's the line from Only Idiots Buck the Tiger? Yeah. So when I see numbers like this, there it is. When I see this come out and it shows, and obviously it shows you back the trend all the way back to October 1st. These are the poly market betting odds. And you see right now, Trump is favored at 54% over 45% for Kamala Harris. And there are people saying, oh, we got this in the bag. I already see it on social media. Have we learned nothing, ladies and gentlemen? Have we learned nothing? CNN this weekend, one of the commentators was like, I don't know if she can win this. There's another one. Election forecast. I don't know if she can win it, the left is saying. The left, who, wasn't it just, I don't know, 2 weeks ago telling us that she can't lose? Wasn't it just a couple of days ago that they were telling us she has this in the bag? And then something happened. The woman running for Michigan Senate, Slotkins, or from Senate for Michigan, sorry, came out and gave a little report that the internal polling for Kamala in Michigan is not good for Harris. And I said when I saw that right away, oh, this is a false flag. This might be a false flag. Either for fundraising or to rally more voters. Either way, I don't trust that to be the truth. And there is a reason for that. Because we've been lied to before. And I see it on social media like crazy. Oh, we're pulling ahead. We're winning. Polls say this. Polls say that. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but take your polls and shove them. Because I'll tell you right now, and as the conversation was in the chat room, polls are unreliable. Polls are entirely unreliable. What was it, a month before the 2016 election? Hillary was up by some ridiculous margin. They were telling Trump supporters and Trump voters, don't even bother. And that's what they want you to do, as chat just pointed out. To either make you think that you're winning so much that you can take the day off on election day, or make you think you're losing so badly. How is it that on social media, I can watch and read people say all day, don't trust polls, don't trust mainstream media, don't trust pundits on the left, don't trust this, don't trust that. And then when they see a number they like, they're all over it. Yes, I will retweet them for conversational portions, but I'm not buying into any of them. You cannot buy into them. Because it's burned us before and it will burn us again. I'll tell you right now. I said this in the response to a comment. I said, look, you got to just keep your foot in the throttle. We have to make it an embarrassing referendum. Just embarrassing. Because if we don't, odds are we'll regret it. Now, like I said, is it a problem when Kamala is going on YouTube sites like Call Her Daddy, which all of a sudden is a political talk show, even though a couple of weeks ago it was all about sex, which I don't care. I don't care that podcast exists. Good for the woman that runs it. I hope you make money off of it. I hope you do well. I'm a capitalist. I believe if there's a market out there and you can find a way to make money off of it, go for it. I am a capitalist. I support it. My problem is when the current vice president and the person who committed a coup in order to be the nominee and never got a vote, still hasn't gotten a vote, is going on that website less than a month, or that YouTube channel less than a month before an election. It's desperation, in my humble opinion. And I'm not the only person that thinks so, because there were a ton of comments apparently on that page. Haven't watched that particular interview yet. I watched clips. I didn't watch the whole thing front to back because I mean, I hate to say it, but I already know how that interview is going to go. Oh my goodness, you're a female vice president. Yes. Tee-hee-hee joke about Doug and snuggling. What is your talking points? And I will do nothing to push back on anything you say. Tee-hee-hee. And I don't say tee-hee-hee because it's a female interviewer. I would say tee-hee-hee if it was a male interviewer. It's just I am an idiot. I'm not going to press you, and I am not going to do anything but let you spout out what you have memorized and you were regurgitated over and over. So I don't blame the woman who hosts it and has the podcast. Good for you. You got a presidential candidate, right, wrong, or indifferent. Look, again, free speech, right? I'm the same thing. If Donald Trump wanted to come on my show, I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't, right? So why would she say no? But here's the problem. She went from never speaking to anybody, and then internal polling must have said, yeesh, we got to do something. So what they're going to do is they find her Colbert and all these other places that she's getting ready to do, these absolutely 100% safe, not press conference situations where she's allowed to regurgitate over and over and over her talking points that she has memorized. And they're just going to hit it. And that way they have their talking points on tape. And idiots like Kamala HQ and all the other ones are next can go, oh, look, she's doing interviews. She's doing interviews with Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is the guy that had a whole bunch of dudes dressed like needles dressing to support vaccination and considers himself a semi-serious interviewer. And he's not. You know, that I think that's the difference with late night talk shows. And I'm going to go on this rant here for a few minutes I wasn't expected to go for. Late night talk shows used to just give everyone a hard time equally, right? They'd point out the funny things that any of them were doing, and they would absolutely be funny. And I'll tell you right now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The old Daily Show with Jon Stewart, even when the pre 9/11, post 9/11, I've said this on Sackheads, his first show post 9/11 was one of the most moving monologues that I saw for all of 9/11. But they went after everybody fairly equally. Yeah, it was a little bit jaded at times, but it was back and forth enough where you could have a sense of humor about it, and nobody was taking what they were saying so seriously that it was changing people's minds. Everybody used to be able to take it with a grain of salt, and that's when you had satire and comedy, and I was okay with that, right? Some of the things Jon Stewart said back in the day on that show were actually very funny. Jon Stewart used to be a very funny man. Even now in his return, and he's the only one who really does it. The other ones are starting to do it a little bit because he co-hosts now with like 4 other people. It's host by committee type thing. But he's still pointing out some of the funny moments. He has his agenda. He wants to prove his Democrat talking points, etc. But it used to be like that all the time, where they just went after everybody and we all had a good time with it because we should laugh at ourselves. I'm okay with laughing at ourselves. Look, my friend asked me why I always wear a hat in the podcast. I'll tell you why, because I'm bald underneath. Make fun of yourself. It's okay to know your shortcomings. But the simple fact of the matter is, these late night shows now are nothing but propaganda machines. And we've seen it. Because they all had Biden on at one time or another, and nobody came out and made fun of him afterwards. Like, oh my God, he really should be in a home. And they all knew it. By the way, speaking of should be in a home and Biden, apparently he's still president because I saw a video for him on October 7th where it said President Biden and Dr. Joe Biden. She must have found time between ER visits to make a video. Satire. I know she's not a medical doctor. But Karine Jean-Pierre, you remember her. She's been the one who's been lying since the ginger there over on MSNBC resigned. And she comes up with her big book of binders and doesn't answer any questions ever. Just got promoted, and this is the most ironic, but not ironic. It fits, but it's crazy. She was just appointed to a senior advisor for President Joe Biden. Now, stop laughing. Stop it. Stop it. Please. Thank you. She was only appointed to this as for her career after the fact. Look, it's October. January, she's out the door one way or the other. It does not matter who goes in. She will not be the press secretary. So now when she writes her book, when she writes her, or she makes her appearances or gets her show on MSNBC or wherever she's going to get her show on, she can turn around and say, oh, I was senior advisor to the president. Senior advisor. That's all it is. Don't look too far into it. But it just made me laugh that she's senior advisor. Doesn't that make you feel better if she really was? It's amazing what they will absolutely do. I mean, I guess, it's a nice thing to do with your life. Let's throw this Let's take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about my favorite social media meltdown of the week. Suicide people. All that and more right there on the SHR Media Network. Hey, look, don't be afraid. Buy me a cocktail.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I've really been watching the Israel still bombarding Hezbollah. I can't imagine that their response to Iran's not going to be soon. I think they wanted to get the memorials done for today and let today be, but they also in return, the amount of rocket fire. My phone's been going off this whole show because I tracked that just to kind of get my finger on the pulse as to what's going on over there. And it's ramped up, and it is ramped up. You ever feel bad about yourself today? Let me give you a moment to feel better, because you could be this guy. Yeah. I guess I was released on the day that he was going to into the debate. Could they have found anybody more goofy? I mean, he's literally a cartoon character. He's a Muppet at this point. I mean, what's funny is that idiot that used to be the head of the GOP, Michael Steele, one of his little characters that he has on all of his social media is a Muppet version of himself because he thought it was funny. Tim Walz is the Muppet version of himself. Like, he just is. It's the weirdest. He's the weirdest man. Oh, like I said, I still call him Richard Simmons without the charisma, exercise, or ability to move. Everything else, though, Waltz is a weird cat, dude. Weird cat. So this past Saturday, President Donald J. Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, also known as the scene of the first assassination attempt that we know absolutely so little about the shooter. But we're still there. Still there. And he came back and he brought the house down. My favorite part is as he walked up, and we showed it live here on SHR Media. My favorite part is he walked up and the immigration stats were to his right where they were when he was giving the speech. And he started with, so as I was saying, for I was so rudely interrupted by a 5.56 round before, as I was saying. So he brought Elon Musk on stage. Now, everybody knows Elon Musk has been a Trump supporter. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. And the left's going nuts. Oh, you shouldn't be allowed that close and this, that, and the other thing. And like I said, Soros, before, it used to be the Koch brothers. Remember that? Before the Koch brothers exposed themselves for just liking rhinos, right? And that's all they were dumping money into, is the military-industrial complex or whatever, but that's who they supported. And now you have an Elon Musk. Oh, the left hates it. They hate the fact that Elon Musk has saved free speech on X. They hate the fact that he's successful with Starlink. They hate the fact that he's successful with SpaceX, Tesla. What's the Boring Project? I mean, the guy sold flamethrowers at one point. They hate all of that about Elon Musk. Why? Because he has so much money they can't control him. And now the FAA is starting to find reasons to fine him for SpaceX. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't care. It's not enough money to matter. They held up Starlink going into the disaster area left by Helene. Well, let me fix that. They held up Starlink last year to be part of a program to be distributed during disasters. They held that up, and then Helene hit, and all of a sudden, Elon's like, yeah, I'll throw out Starlinks all over the place. By the way, nobody's going to pay for at least 30 days. We'll worry about all that down the line, but I'll turn it on so public safety, everyone else has communication. We'll start flooding the area with them. A lot of individual podcasters, and I showed some of it earlier this week or at the end of last week. They great things. Elon Musk has proven that when people are in harm's way, he tries to help the average regular person, right? You look at what he did in Ukraine. Again, does not matter what you feel about the Ukrainian government. What he was doing for the people of Ukraine when they first started getting bombed is he turned on Starlink over there. So the average citizen, the person, doesn't matter what their war preference is or isn't, could have communication. And it's funny what they'll attack Elon Musk on. I saw them going about attacking him about how many kids he had and the fact that he's had children with different people. Okay. It's 2024. That happens all the time. And the one thing you don't see Elon talking about is his religious or personal values. That's private to him. People are going to attack that. Well, how can he be a right wing? Because it's all crazy conservatives and crazy Christians, and he has kids with different baby mamas. I know pastors that have kids with different baby mamas. That's not an exaggeration. I know legitimate pastors that have done that. It happens. Who cares? Who cares? As long as he's doing his job as a father, or is being allowed to, or wants to, that matters, right? So they will attack Elon Musk for absolutely anything now. It's hysterical. They all loved him when he made Tesla, which, by the way, on SHR Media, on Sackheads, I had said that I thought Elon Musk was secretly conservative. Years ago, when Tesla, it was after the Roadster, it was after he put one in space, it was the first couple of models, and just some of the things he was doing pre-COVID, I had said, I think Elon Musk might be more conservative than we're giving him credit for. Even though he voted for Obama, even though he voted for Biden. But I said there's just something about this dude. And then during COVID, when all the plants were shut down and the science wasn't supporting that they were shut down in Alameda County, he was like, hey, open this or we're moving. Like, we have work to do. We need to go back to, and there's no, okay. Well, look at what's leaving California. Everything, just about everything, Tesla, SpaceX, he's getting it all out of California. Why? Because they treated him like garbage. That's what Elon Musk does. He doesn't sit there and fight for too long. He just goes, all right, I'm just going to change the situation so it's better for me. Better for my people. You have to applaud that. He absolutely, I think, does what he thinks is right. I always love when I get chats. This is from my friend BZ, by the way, Tuesday and Thursday night right here on the SHR Media Network, the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. He's also on the same social media, YouTube, everything else. You can find him. But he says in the chat room, sadly, I have to admit you're correct about saying you thought Musk was a conservative. I hate it when you're correct. Yep, I know. So many people hate when I'm right. But now I want to talk about one of the most epic meltdowns about Elon Musk. This guy is, man. You want to talk somebody who fell so far out of mental stability. So far out of mental stability. He used to be relevant. Actually, when he just did sports and specifically baseball and analysis, I appreciated his conversation because I thought he did sports well, but he can't stay away from politics. This is Keith Olbermann just doing the crazy, batshit crazy stuff Keith Olbermann does.
On the Monday Countdown podcast, it is now time to cancel all of Elon Musk's government contracts. Tesla, SpaceX, whatever other crap he's selling us. He is now actively engaged in a post-hurricane effort to spread potentially fatal disinformation and misinformation about FEMA's recovery efforts and the impact in the affected states. He is also now working in an in-kind donation, turning Twitter X into a Trump advertising campaign. It's time to cancel all the contracts and reassess his immigration status and hopefully deport him the hell out of the country.
Tell me Elon Musk broke you without telling me he broke you. Holy God. Show me on the doll where Elon Musk touched you, Keith. Show me on the doll, baby. You poor, crazy victim that you're trying to make other people believe that you're a victim. Keith Olbermann's out of his goddamn mind. Deport him. He's a citizen. Reassesses Reassess his citizenship status. For what? For what? You can't. He's a citizen. No matter what he does now, he's a citizen. Unless he's a citizen. You remember all of the people that went and fought for ISIS that were American citizens? And you guys said when we were like, well, military tribunals, because they're committing acts of war against Americans. Oh, no. They have American citizenship. He's not committing an act of war. He's not doing anything. Look, these people who want to tell you that if Donald Trump gets elected, the world is going to end are either so absolutely insane that they believe it, or in Keith Olbermann's case, he's trying to just maintain relevancy. He wants you to tune in. He's feeding the mental illness that is Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know if he's actually that crazy. I think he's a great actor. I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of people want to absolutely say, no, he believes that, because you want to believe that he believes that because it explains why he's so crazy in the head. I think it's worse. I think I don't think he likes Trump. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's like secretly going to pull the handle for Trump. I don't think he believes any of the garbage that he spits out. I don't believe it. I think he knows damn well what he's doing, which is getting weak-minded liberals to listen to his podcast. Now, look, I am guilty of trying to get strong-minded conservatives to listen to mine. I know there's some weak-minded liberals that will listen to it and get angry. By the way, you can find our podcast on Spreaker and Apple Podcasts and anywhere good podcasts are. I'll be the first to admit that. I am here because I want you to engage and follow me. I am here because I want to spread the word about what's really going on out there. I believe in constitutional values. I hope you do too. I want you to be a free person. Even if I don't like what you have to say or do or live your life, I want you to have that freedom. I don't have to agree. Because you can shut the door to your house just like I can shut the door to mine. And whatever you do in there, as long as everyone's legal and above age, I don't give a rat's ass. You bring it into public, in front of kids, whatever, that's a different argument we can have at a different time. Right? Keith Olbermann, I think, just wants to convince you he thinks the republic will end. And that all of a sudden Trump, even though we had 4 years to do it before, will be a dictator this time around. One of the arguments I heard is, well, it's his last time running. It's his last. He'd have to do it now. He could have done it before, and then he wouldn't need to worry about the second time. He wouldn't have got shot campaigning. Not saying he saw that coming, but a lot of us knew during this election that the opportunity to hear the news that somebody took a shot at Trump was very real. And we all warned against it, and it was sad, but it was true. I don't think Olbermann believes that. Do I believe that if Harris becomes president and that if she gets, maybe not this time around, but in 2 years, she gets a Congress who works with her like we've seen in California with supermajorities, if the worst happens, will they start eroding your constitutional rights, your natural rights, where the Constitution says the government may not infringe upon these? That is what it says. As a reminder, I said earlier, I'll say it again, I'll probably say it every show if you let me. Your rights do not come from government. That piece of paper is to tell government that they do not have the right to take that away from you. But they have been trying. That's why I brought Hillary earlier. That's why we talk about all the times they bring up AOC and stuff. Oh, you can limit free speech. For folks, ladies and gentlemen, we saw what they've done with the Second Amendment. Once they feel like they have a little wedge in there, they're going to keep going and going and going, and they absolutely will not stop until you are down on your knees doing government bidding all of the time. You say, oh, it won't happen. Really? When has the good guys in history ever wanted to limit your freedoms and your free speech? When has that happened? Good. Sean at shrmedia.com. SHAUN at shrmedia.com. Email me. When has the good guys ever wanted to disarm its people? Same address. At the number 2 against tyranny. Comment on any of the videos on Twitch, on Rumble. Let me know. And I'm not talking about fire in a theater or something that's an imminent threat to public safety. I'm talking about your freedom to question government, your freedom to protest, your freedom of religion, your freedom to do all of the things that as an individual, as long as your rights are not infringing on somebody else, you have the right to do. Tell me the last time a government has done that and they were the good guys. Most recently, look at Venezuela. It's easy to see where they will go if you will let them go. And it's sad because there are people in this country who 100%, look, I'll tell you, I don't trust government no matter who's in there. Because as soon as they start showing me that they're going to go against the Constitution and my rights, I'm going to be the first one to say something about it. I wasn't happy about everything that any president's ever done, no matter how good a president was. That's okay. You're not supposed to agree all the time. You're supposed to pick somebody who closely reflects your values. And then when you have that difference, you have that right to redress. You have the right to bring it up to them, talk to your representatives. That is what an elective republic government does. That's what it's supposed to do. There's no such thing as a perfect candidate. There's no such thing as a perfect president. But you want somebody who you think the majority of the time that they wake up and go to work every single day is going to represent your values and respect your that is who you want to vote for. From the chat room, the only greatest president would be me, and sadly, I'm not running. BZ, I don't know if I can argue that. Thank you so much for joining us on X, on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitch. Folks at Twitch, thank you so much. Like, subscribe to SHR Media. Once again, I'm not shy. It's right there. Buy me a cocktail if you don't mind. If you like anything I said or done on the show, don't be afraid to help a brother out. Really. At the number 2 against tyranny. If you're watching on any of the video sites, Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, please like and subscribe, share it, leave a comment, help us out as we try to help more and more. That's going to be it for me here at the Edge of Liberty on the SHR Media Network. I will be back Friday, same time. I may pop in anytime between now and then. If something big happens with Israel and Iran and that looks like it's getting wider, I may pop in and do some live stuff. We'll see what we can pull off. Tuesday, I don't know. Jersey Joe's supposed to be on at 9 East, 6 Pacific tonight. With that storm coming, him prepping, I don't know. He said he didn't think so don't expect it. Tuesday, Thursday night, right here on the SHR Media Network, you do have the Bloviating Bobcats, the Bloviating Zeppelin, Berserk Bobcat Saloon. You can follow BZ's Saloon on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for watching us. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Stay safe. Sean at shrmedia.com. Forgot to say that a couple more times in case there's something you want to get on the show for Friday. Let me know. Have a good
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR